Hello and welcome. Chad, you nailed it, actually. We got to give it to you. What's up, people? Sunday Live, I believe this is number 171. I think that's right. What's happening? There's Ben Coombs. What's up, Ben? How you doing? What's happening? Can you guys hear me okay? First of all, let's check, make sure the audio is cool. Somebody says focus. Put on my glasses to do that. Looks pretty damn focused to me, man. Go there, I can go here. Now, I don't see so well, so there's that. I'm maybe not the best judge, but I'm going to go with right about there. How about that? Coming through loud and clear, says, man, okay, good deal. Out of focus, really. It looked okay to me. How about now? I don't know. I got to set up the camera again. I've got it set all on manual, and maybe that ain't the best thing. Maybe I should leave it up to the computer to figure out what looks best. Let's see what's going on right now. Interesting pedals I got this week. A company called Pedal Pawn that my friend Richard Fortis hooked me up with. I don't have one I can show you because it's actually wired into my pedal board right now. But there's one called the Texas Twang. Has anybody heard these pedals? It's evidently kind of a takeoff on Cesar Diaz design, but which was originally based on a Rangemaster anyway. I think it's a treble booster of sorts, but kind of geared for getting that Stevie Ray Vaughan extra hyper strat twangy thing, as well as, if you want, mixed with some fuzz. So it's pretty cool, actually. I mean, kind of sounds like fuzz. It's got a kind of a gain range switch on it that also fattens up the tone. It like fattens and adds more gain in each successive position, like from the cleanest to, so there's 3 settings on it. And then it's got a ton of output with a volume control to boost. And if you set the volume kind of low or for unity gain, you do get like, it'll turn any amp into like that kind of like, just hit the neck pickup and it gets super twangy and just hyper strat sounding. It's pretty cool. So just messing with that. I just plugged them in last night, and they sent for me to check out as well a Vibe, which Richard says is like the greatest Vibe ever, next to like the real old ones, or maybe even including the real old ones, and a fuzz as well. So I haven't gotten to those yet, but that was fun yesterday. Different kind of pedal. I love treble boost. So has anybody tried them? Pedal Pawn. They're made in the UK. What else happened? What else? Late 80s, Jeff Beck called. He wants his hair back. Yeah, I got a haircut this week. Yeah, man. Hey, it's still growing, so I figure, it's still there. It didn't get up and leave yet, so I might as well have some fun. Why not? Whatever. I'm just thankful it's still there. Do I have any gigs coming up, says Leroy? There's stuff right now that only for 2022, like January, that I know of. But like, hopefully other things will happen first before that. I hope so. We'll see. I'm just not sure yet. What else we got here? What else? Much better focus, says Scott. Excellent. Got that dialed in. Yesterday, I hung out on, was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember now. I think it was the day before. I hung out on the Tom Bukovac Tone Talk with Dave and Mark. That was fun for a minute. I love Tom's show. I like his homeschooling YouTube situations. It's great. He's a really, really good guitar player, and he drops little cool nuggets of knowledge all the time that I think are really important. And one of the ones that, while I was there and present, that he mentioned was how the players in Nashville really listen to one another. I thought that was a great, that's very important. Like, that could be one of the best guitar lessons you ever get in your life, to on a session as you're it's a common thing, like when you're playing live, right, on a gig, listen to the other players and stuff. But within the context of like, you've just got a chart put in front of you or heard a demo or whatever, and now you're going to play through a song for the first time with a group of players, and actually create, you've got to come up with a part, you got to come up with a vibe, how much to play, what not to play, and listening in that context and how important that is. Listen to the other players so that you're working as one mind towards making this thing a cohesive piece of music that really is cool, and so pick and choose your space. And he mentioned that sometimes, you'll do a take and one player might step on another player by them both, or vice versa, by them both playing a lick at the same time. But that'll never happen on the next take with real pros. They'll noted, and it's an unspoken thing. And probably whoever's idea was, because one thing I took away from doing sessions is that if you take your ego out of it, one of the things that I've noticed is if you're not trying to show off and you're not like, I got to get my idea in here. If that happened, if two people played something at the same time, say a drum fill and a guitar lick or something, or bass and guitar that were counter to one another, the best idea tends to float to the top, whether it was your thing that you did or the other person's, and everybody will be aware of that without any ego. It'll just be like, oh, that was the most musical thing. It should be a bass thing, not a guitar thing, or maybe vice versa, and that becomes aware. And so he said it's kind of an unspoken thing on the next take. That clash won't happen, It's cool. It's like really important stuff, I think. Yeah, a couple of super chats. Rez is up there. Says, you mentioned it would be cool if Origin Effects had a full-size version of the Revival Drive Hot Rod with ghosting. They do. Limited to 500. Excuse me, I burped. It's limited to 500. JCM 800, Mesa Rivera, Solano Bogner in a box. That's cool. I want to check that out. I didn't even know that. That's awesome, because that is the one thing that makes it the coolest Marshall in a box, is that ghosting thing. I just saw they just put out a kind of a, whatever you call it, an ad, I guess, or whatever, with Tony Iommi, saying that he, he's holding the pedal and that he really likes the ghosting feature. And to me, it is the thing that makes it really different than every other pedal, and makes it sound more like an amp. Yeah, thanks for letting me know that and doing the super chat, Reza. That's cool, because I didn't know that. I had no idea. Leon, he's in Europe and sent me a super chat as well. Thanks, man. He says, can I ask advice? When I bend notes on the high E strings, I sometimes get noise from the B string as it slips off my finger. Anything setup wise that can be done, or is it just bad technique? As it slips off your finger. Well, I don't know. I mean, high frets for me are important because you can kind of get under the next string when you bend. So I like that. It also seems to create less, like there's less stuff you're kind of rubbing against when you're doing the bend, because you're not hitting the fingerboard as much as just a fret. So I suppose setup could be it. It'd be something I'd have to see you do, though, I think, like, and listen to really know what you mean. And it might not be that big of a deal, like, could be cool, part of your style. I don't know. But I'd like to, if there was a way I could see what you were talking about, I could offer a better assessment. Things like bending and vibrato, I find that the best way to get there is just to listen to people and watch, because now you can watch, and sometimes I'll go reference folks whose vibrato I really admire because I can't, for example, the Clapton thing where he does the, this kind of thing, the up and down shake where you're holding the note, as opposed to this, kind of rotational in the neck vibrato, this thing, that up and down thing that people do that is so cool. I've never really been able to do that. And so sometimes I'll go watch videos of him or other people that I think are really good at that sort of thing, and try and cop that thing just to kind of like, and I think honestly that Richard is actually texting me. Cool. He was just letting me know he got. I thought maybe he was watching the show and he saw that I mentioned him, but he mentioned that he got a Scream Honey and that it sounds great. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. Anyways, that's the pedal that I did for CKK a while ago, a demo of, and there's some controversy about, but it was really great in front of a Marshall. So, actually, I'm going to tell him right now. I just tried the pedal pawn pedals. Also awesome. So good. Because they were so good. I mean, really, Texas Twang pedals, so great. Sounds really amazing. So I'm looking forward to plugging in the Vibe today because he's got to be right about that one. You know. Anyways, we were talking about technique, and yeah, I'll literally just go watch YouTube and try and kind of absorb, the technique and watch physically what they're doing. And it's weird. You can kind of like copy, like it takes a while. Sometimes I don't have it, and then I don't have it, and then I don't have it, and then I do have it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like through watching what they're doing with their hands and just listening, it somehow gets in there. I don't know how else to describe it. And bending vibrato is one of those things. Picking is another one. Like I tend to put my hand on the bridge when I pick, and I'm not one of those people that puts their fingers on the guitar and then picks. And I find the folks that plant a finger on the guitar, sorry, I just know I missed a super chat. I'm going to get to it. The folks that put their fingers on the guitar and then like arpeggiate, for example, like Alex Lifeson, I think does that, and some other people I've seen, and they're really good at picking through chords and knowing where they are. So sometimes I practice that and try and make it part of my technique, like planting a finger, as opposed to, what I'm talking about, right? Where my hand, I keep closed and then I rest it on the bridge and I tend to pick. But if I'm picking through across the strings, I find sometimes I'm not accurate. So the folks that do this and then plant a pinky or something, or some folks seem to put one around the ring on a Les Paul, or, my friend Al used to play like that, I can remember. And he actually wore a hole through the front of his guitar right where he would put his finger down. And he always picked like that with his finger on the guitar. And I thought, maybe I should do that. I don't know. And then I've heard other people say, "Oh no, it's not good to do that." I think it's cool if you can do that, because it tends to give you more of a frame of reference of where your hand is on the neck. Let me find that super chat I just missed. That was Ryan. Ryan says, "Nice black and white Van Halen clone that was in this week's video. What body and neck do you have? Curious it is, and how it compares to your black KNE. It's interesting. It's heavier. So it was made by Lock Guitars, are the folks that we made it specifically for this pickup video that I've got coming up. And they're quite different. The two guitars, I would say. Number one has a Floyd, and the other one has I've got the Wilkinson bridge on it. Actually, I'll show it to you because I did something to it this week. Okay, one thing is it's heavier. This one's really heavy, like Les Paul late 70s heavy. Almost, I would say. It's got to be 10 pounds. So it's a really heavy piece of ash. The KNE is not quite as heavy. This one, I've got the Wilkinson vintage bridge on it, but I just couldn't keep the saddles in tune when decking. I have this theory that when you deck a bridge like Eddie did, and I wanted to do that because it's different when you got the plate and everything backed against the wood of the guitar. And so I didn't want to float it because that would be too different. I think tonally it would affect, I was trying to get as close as I could get to what he was doing. But when the break angle becomes more severe when you do that over the strings, and I think there's more of a difference then between when the bridge is, when you lose tension and when it comes back, right? Because if it's like this, if you've got it floating more like Jeff Beck or Scott Henderson, you've got a softer kind of angle over that saddle, and there's less of a difference when you're using the bar than when it's like this, and then you go to, you know what I mean? So I was talking about this with Sir quite a bit, and he was mentioning that, and I agree. I think that's what's going on. So long story short, I put the Wilkinson saddles on it, like on my signature guitar, and they sound great, and they definitely help. I had to play with the 6 screws a little bit. Have you guys ever messed on a Strat with like the, setting up the screws have to be just right. Like, you can't have them too high, but you can't have them clamped down too much. The middle ones can be raised up a little bit, but the outer two have to be just so, the tension, in order for the bridge to kind of come back, even when it's decked. because if they're not quite right, you can pull back on the bar and it'll drastically knock the guitar out of tune, and so it's tough. But right now, see, it was good yesterday. But you heard it do it right now, where I've got to play with the screws more. You hear how it was flat when I dunked it, and then it went sharp when it kind of like yesterday I was playing with it a lot, and it wasn't really doing that. But it's, you know how guitars are, they settle in. And see, now it seems okay, but I got to play more with it. Anyway, that's my struggle that I'm going through right now, because I want to use this guitar like for that video for sure, of course, and I'll do it. I'll just play parts without the trim if I have to, I guess. But it'd be nice if I could just, I've been wrestling with this thing for about 3 weeks, trying to get it just to where it'll stay in tune right. So I think that's my struggle right now, is getting those 2 screws. I probably have to tighten. I think there's a little too much play under one of them, so I probably have to tighten the one on the treble side just a little bit. But you don't want to go too tight, because then you inhibit the movement of the bridge. It's just kind of a balancing act. I guess the way that you're supposed to do it technically is take all the strings off the guitar, take the springs off the back, and then you let the plate of the bridge sit on the guitar, and then you back down the 2 outer screws to the point where the bridge just starts to lift off the body, and then you back them off just a little bit. And then you can screw down the other ones and leave them a little bit higher. And that's evidently the best way to do it, that I've been told. And then you put the strings on, set it up. But I didn't do that, but maybe I should have gone through that whole process, because now I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit. Anyway, guitars, the trials and tribulations of guitarists. And Sleeping Saloon says, for FYI, the Wilkinson locking saddles are back in stock on Reverb. Ordered a set last night. They are really great. They're helping with that guitar. It's so funny, because I wasn't having that problem yesterday. I was actually had it just kind of, it was working, and then now it's sticking again. It's strange. But the saddles, I had it staying in tune quite good yesterday. Seemed to be working really well. So it's an ongoing battle. Thanks for doing the super chat, Sleeping Saloon. Ian Ferguson mentioned he can't wrap his head around how Clapton does the vibrato I was talking about earlier, the up and down thing. Yeah, I really think it's just a physical thing that you have to practice, just like bending a string and then vibratoing it up, because at one point we couldn't do that either. It just starts. I'm a little better at it than I used to be, but you have to do it all the time, I think. And just we fall into these patterns, like picking the way we pick, or technique, the way you kind of rest your arms or your thumb on the neck, and it just becomes second nature. And then it's really hard to break those habits and get into other things. There's some folks that are really great at it, like mastering all the different ways of vibrato, Greg Cox one, he can do anything, he can seemingly cop all these different techniques, and it's pretty great, how he's got that ability to do that. Thanks again, Sleeping Saloon, for the super chat. Appreciate that. Brian in the super chat as well. How do you feel about a preamp rig currently using Revival Drive into Iconoclast versus a real head Marshall Mini Plexi you run 20 into a load box? Well, the real head is always a bit more of a pain, So for me, the Revival Drive is a really great solution. I was talking about this with Friedman yesterday, just how, he was talking about a mutual friend of ours that said, because he's got some modded amps and different amps and stuff, but he's also got old Marshalls, and said, I just keep coming back to the old Plexi, and no matter what, there is just this thing with old Marshalls that if that's your thing and you like it, if you've been bitten by that bug, it's hard to get around that because of the compression factor that happens. Like the amp does this thing where, and I think a lot of it is the phase inverter actually on an old Marshall. It's everything, but the phase inverter is a big one. When you have master volume amps, preamp gain, or pedals, they're developing their distortion in such a way that it's certain thing. But what happens with the old Marshalls, like the SV would, I think, probably do this thing because it's basically just an old Marshall circuit. That compression that happens where the chord or note or whatever kind of evolves after you hit it, and goes meow, right? Whereas like a pedal or a preamp gain based amp just kind of goes ah. In other words, there's this linear quality to the overdrive and the way that the chord fades that doesn't really change. Whereas with the old amp, it does this thing that is, there's no getting around it. You can hear it in the like the video I put up this week where I sort of wrote a Van Halen style track for the Warm Audio. If you watch that for the Warm Audio preamps, you can hear it all over that. Or anything I do really with the SL68 or one of those, that thing, it's got that quality to it. And it's magic, It's just this magic thing that happens with the driving the back end of the amp and playing it with they clean up like nothing else, where the volume on the guitar and the whole 9 yards, So cascaded preamp tubes, they just never do that same thing as a little bit of distortion from the preamp tubes combined with that thing coming in the back end. So if I had to pick, long story short, it's always going to be the amp. The amp into the load box will do it, and whereas the pedals don't. But then you got to carry an amp in the load box. Now, it's not a big amp, the SV20. You mentioned the Runt 20 as well. Cool amp, very cool amp, and I love Dave's amps. But it's also a preamp gain base, so it's going to be better for the modern higher gain. The modern higher gain thing is really cool too. It's just a different sound, different sound and totally valid. And there's Tone Talk right there. That's Mark. What's up, man? Great having you on the show Friday night, Pete. Thank you. Always fun. Thank you, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was just very, very kind of last minute, but I love Tom, so it was really nice to meet him, at least virtually, and express my gratitude for his great videos, because they are great. Thanks, man. Michael in the super chat. Any chance you will do another sound check 39 like show when things open up? Do you mean the thing I did at Lucky Strike? Is that what you mean? Definitely. I'd love to do that again. I can't remember what number 39 was, because I've done a couple of them. One of them we played a whole set of Chris Cornell music. With the 3 of the 4 guys that actually toured as his band. Yogi wasn't in town, but that was really fun. And then I did another one where we played the whole first side of Diver Down. That was really fun. Really, really fun, with Glenn Sobel on drums, and I'm forgetting the fellow's name now, but the great bass player that nails the Michael Anthony background vocals. He's a terrific bass player. I think he's a fellow from Atomic Punks, and of course from Eric Dover vocals. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to do another one. I would, something else, some other theme. They're starting to do that again, by the way. It's going to happen again. Michael says the Cornell one. Yeah, I'd love to do just some other theme, that'd be really fun. It'd be really, really fun. I'm sure it'll happen. They're starting that again. Who's sang on the Diver Down songs? Eric did. It was really cool. You can see it on YouTube if you search for Pete Thorn Diver Down sound check live. It'll probably come up. You can see we did Hang 'Em High. We did. I didn't play every song. I shared guitar duties with one other guitar player, come to think of it, but I played like 4 tunes, I think, at least, something like that. I did Cathedral. For sure, I'm forgetting what I played. We did Hang 'Em High, Cathedral. I didn't do Little Guitars. It's probably not on the first side. I can't remember where that comes on the album. Anyway, you can check it out and have a listen. That's weird to think, because I can't even remember what other songs we played, but I know I did it. It was at least 3 or 4 tunes. Yep. What else we got here? What else we got? Arthur says, I always have so much fun at Lucky Strike. There's always so many awesome musicians. They're moving the venue for Lucky Strike Live. For those that don't know, there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't know what the hell we're talking about. Lucky Strike Live was a night there's a bowling alley in Hollywood that has a great venue in it with a nice stage and, fully outfitted with great amps and, good lights and sound and the whole 9 yards. And it started out that it was every Wednesday for a while, or maybe it started as every last Wednesday, but then it went to almost every Wednesday, I think. For a number of years, it was going, and a lot of great, musicians, a lot of great players would come out and play, and you'd see like, Betancourt or Steve Vai came down, or different people like that, and they would come and sit in and play, and a great kind of house band. With really good, pro players, and different people would kind of come through. And generally speaking, they'd have a band open up the night, like an original band of some sort. But it would get pretty packed out in there. Like some nights it was like 500 people in there, And it's a big venue, but the area where you watch the bands is kind of normal club size, kind of L-shaped. It's a bowling alley, but it's like a rock and roll bowling alley. It's kind of fun, high-end bowling alley, I guess. Anyways. It's a hell of a lot of fun. So that's Lucky Strike Live, but they're going to do it now at a different venue, not too far away. It's like I can't remember the name of the place, but it's like Hollywood and Vine, basically. And it's going to be the last Wednesday of every month, again, as I understand it, as they're starting up here again, kind of getting back to it. So that'll be fun. That will be fun. What else have we got here? Thanks, Michael, again for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'd love to do another one of those things. So it'll happen. Ryan is also there in the super chat. He says, love the PT15. I'm mumbling, sorry. When trying to tone match Matchbox 20 songs, which use a Buddha or Bad Cat, more American voiced amps, should I use channel 2 or a pedal in front of channel 1? I would probably use a pedal in front of channel 1. And try different drives, like for that sound, that kind of Americana thing, a little less Marshall, a little more. I think of Matchbox 20 like total Americana pop rock. I would probably use something like for those tones. I've got a Jan Ray and a Unit 67 on my board to kind of boost into the amp. And then I've got a kind of rotating cast of like plexi style pedals. Right now it's been a Bogner Blue that I kind of run as a low gain kind of Marshall thing. So, like drives into channel 1 is a really cool thing on the PT15. So I would probably go that route. Maybe hit the channel 2 or 3 for solos, But yeah, some cool overdrive. Oh, here's an interesting drive that I'll show you. Has anybody tried this guy from RJM? This is a programmable analog drive. So it's MIDI. Check this out. If you haven't seen one of these, pretty neat. So you can store presets. I don't know how many presets because I just pulled it out of the box last night. But it does kind of like there's, kind of boutique and classic and different names, that I haven't even looked at the manual. So I'm sure they're going to correspond to Screamer and Klon and drives like that, but there's some original ones in there, I think, too. And it does pretty great amp style distortion, too. So something like this would probably, nail that. You could get your different, like variety of tones into channel 1. And I love the idea of the MIDI and the separate boost. So it's a pretty really versatile pedal, right? There's not really fuzz sounds in there, but for everything from, I would say, amp style overdrive distortion through classic drives, this has got you covered, and boost. Pretty cool. Nobody's seen that one. Got to give it some love, and I'll do a nice video for it. Have you played the Jerry Cantrell 20 watt? Not specifically. I don't think I've ever plugged into it, but I know people really like it, and I've played the bigger one, and I love the sounds Jerry gets out of the bigger one. The demo he did for the big one is killer. I love that he just played riffs, like if you've never seen his video. And I think the front end of the amp is basically the same as the big one in the in the little guy. So yeah. Is there a way to export amps and effects in Logic GarageBand so they can be loaded into a Pod Go? Not really. You got to kind of just do the closest thing you can do, I would say, with the modeled sounds in the Go, and I mean, one thing that you could do is whatever's going on for speaker simulation. I think if you turned off everything else in the Logic situation, amp sim wise, effect wise, and all you were left with was the cab sim, I think you could probably make an IR of that. And that would go a long way towards getting the sound that you like. If you can make an impulse response of the kind of the filter cab sim portion of that, and then you could load that into the Go, and just load up a similar amp sim, and you'd probably find like, oh yeah, that's pretty close actually. So that's one thing you could do. Now, how you do that is another. There's different ways to make IRs and different programs you can use and stuff, but that's what I would say I would investigate if I was you. Hopefully that's helpful. Loot 89 up there in the super chat. Thanks, man. Says, cool to see you pop up in Tone Talk with Bukovac the other night. We'd love to see you on your show someday in the future. I'd love to have him on, actually. Just have a good chat with him about all kinds of stuff. That would be cool. I thought of that too. Definitely would be a cool one. Jeff says he loves the Tone Talk show, especially the marathon ones. Yeah, they can go pretty long, right? It's amazing. I did a interview for a thing called Creative Exchange, Creative X Change, that you can maybe find if you're interested. I'm not sure where it even streams out of. If it's on YouTube, I didn't get that, like whether it's YouTube channel or what. But anyways, if you go to their site, I'm sure you can find the interview because I just did it 2 days ago. But I was on there with, it was a drummer from New York that was interviewing me. He asked really great questions. I felt actually he was really a cool guy, and we had a great rapport, I felt like. And I went for 3 hours and 20 minutes or something. We talked, and finally I said, I got to go to the bathroom, but it was a really great conversation, and I really enjoyed it, but I was like hitting that limit where it was like, okay, we gotta wrap it up. But and then it was funny because the fellow Sass from Creative Exchange got on at the end after we got offline and finished the interview, and he said, boy, you guys can really talk. Was the first thing he said. But that's sometimes, I think some of the Tone Talks I've been on have gone that long, like with the one with John Sir, and you can just keep going, and once you get talking about gear with friends, it's cool. It's a good hang. Yeah. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. Playing live. I'm just kind of paging through the chats here. Which reverb would you use to put in the effects loop of a Plexi Metramp effects loop for that Van Halen Sunset Soundplay reverb? The only, the problem is I don't really subscribe to the putting things in the loop of a Plexi. If a Plexi has it, I don't really like loops on Plexis, but because it, once again, it comes pre-phase inverter, and when you do that, it's hard to get the sound because you need to nail the phase inverter, I feel like, in order to get that Van Halen compression. And if you do that, you're also going to nail that phase inverter with the reverb, so it's tough. But bearing that in mind, a plate reverb and a pedal, I mean, probably something along the lines of the Sunset Sound is actually not a plate, it's a chamber. So it kind of got misconstrued over the years, I think. But it's in a room with a speaker in it, so they would actually pump the sound of the guitar through the speaker as they were mixing. And then there's microphones in the room that pick up the sound of the room, reverberating the signal of the guitar coming out of the speaker. If you want the best reverb in a DAW, I know this isn't your question, but in a DAW, the Sunset Sound plugin from IK Multimedia is unbelievable. That's what I've been using lately. It's a convolution reverb, and they just nail the sound of those rooms, and it sounds pretty much as close as you're ever going to get to the sound of those records. The Van Halen reverbs on the different records, Studio 1, Studio 2. the chambers. It's really cool, really tweakable, and very, very cool. So I really enjoy that. In a pedal, I would say probably something in the, the Strymon range. They're pretty good at handling high input, without distorting coming out of a loop. A send if the send is hot. So I would probably say something like a Blue Sky or something, or maybe a Flint. And yeah, maybe on the plate setting, maybe that's the closest thing, but it's technically a chamber reverb. Yeah, the Blue Sky, I would say, would probably be pretty good, for that. I bet you could get close enough where it's like, a pretty cool sound. But I hesitate to tell you that it'll work great in the loop of that amp when you're running the amp like you will, which is right, everything all the way up. It's probably going to, sound a little crazy, like, because it's going to distort a little bit going into the phase inverter. Rather, the phase inverter is distorted, so the reverb will become distorted. Yeah, that's the only thing. It's Newbie is up there in the super chat, and he says, "Hope this week has treated you well. Keep rocking." Thanks, man. I hope you had a good week too. What's your most memorable live experience? Could be something you witnessed or something you participated in. It has to be the Fuji show with Tyoshi Negabuchi in 2015, because it was just the most unique show I've ever played in my life, and probably maybe ever will play. 100,000 people, at Mount Fuji, in an all-night show where I flew in on a helicopter, above the crowd, and then ran up on a 200-meter wide stage and proceeded to play from 9:30 in the evening until about 6:30 in the morning. So there's never going to be another show quite like that, and 52 days of rehearsal leading up to that one gig. 52 days of rehearsal for one show. There's some video of it on YouTube, but there was nothing like it. I mean, like, I can't. There's so many moments throughout the night. I mean, it feels like 5 gigs, first of all, because it was so long. When I think about, and the sun came up, and then so it was light out after playing all night, and around 3:30 in the morning, getting pretty tired, and then like all of a sudden, you second wind, and then like the sun came up, and then you're just kind of up, and then trying to sleep the next day. That was weird. I kind of almost had like a nervous breakdown the next day. For a number of different reasons, but I can remember going back to the hotel and having like these weird feelings of almost getting, like, I'd fall asleep, then I get shocked back awake almost, and it was a really bad, like, I didn't sleep well, and then coming back to LA, it was a crazy kind of come down from that gig. Very unique, more than just a gig. But I'll never forget it. One of those life things, just the experience of also being like, it was a very, very Japanese experience, I don't know how else to describe it, but it was to get to go. It's the closest thing to going to another planet and playing music or something, because you're so immersed in. It's not the same as like going to play, Summer Sonic or something in Japan as an American band. Something like that, it's more like a very distinctly Japanese crowd and experience and kind of environment. And so to be a part of that was like really awesome. That whole gig was like that, but certainly that one show, it really was like I felt like I got to, you get to be a part of a different culture for a minute on a level that, I don't know how else to describe it. It was really fun. One of those special things. Special places the guitar has taken me, It's like this piece of wood with 6 strings, it's crazy, some of the experiences. But Alex is up there in the super chat too. He says, happy Sunday. How would you describe the tonal difference between a Creamback 65 and a 75? That's a really good question. To me, the 65 has way more forward mids, and the 75 is more balanced. And I prefer the 75 for that reason, although I'm a Greenback guy. So I like this 65 in an impulse response, especially. I think they sound really good. I like the way they're like a little warmer than a Greenback because the mids are so forward. And they tend to dominate. It's like a nice warm Greenback, but sometimes it's too much mids for me. So if you're experiencing that, like the 75 has a more balanced overall, just the whole range is there. So it's really nice, I find. Uh, so that's if you're looking for and it's a great speaker in a combo. I know there's been, some issues that I've talked to with folks where the 65s have failed, and the 75s are robust as hell. For whatever reason, it's different magnet, and it's probably just like a little bit more heavy duty speakers. It'll handle 75 watts instead of 65. But just overall, I think they're great in a combo or in a. That's what we use in the PT 100 212. So. Yeah. How do you approach composing bass lines? That's a cool question. Trying to get more groove in my guitar and bass playing. Well, the first thing is you want to lock in with the kick, at least most of the time. I think that gives a great, feel to a song. And, so it's different than playing the guitar. And the guitar can play off that and play counter to it. Sometimes the guitar locks into the click too, but sometimes it's, syncopated, anticipated, or whatever, when the bass line can be, a little more locked with the rhythm section. You are a part of the rhythm section. So also a great tip for me was try and cut out as much of the crap in between notes as you can. Like, so on the guitar where we kind of, there's a lot of rhythmic stuff that you kind of do, and those sounds are part of the guitar. You don't really do that on bass that much. There's no rules. Sure you can, but some bass players showed me that. Like, it's more like about playing cleanly. The notes are very defined and you don't have all that, kind of stuff going on. And if you do that, it really cleans up the sound a lot and leaves room for the guitar to do all that stuff. So those are two important points. Within it, I don't know what kind of music you play, but within a rock context, it's really interesting to listen to, I'll use the example of yesterday. I learned the bass line for Unchained, because I was playing on my friend Blair's putting together an Alex Van Halen drum video, because we had the rig up this week for doing the video that I did for the Warm Audio Pre. So he thought, well, I might as well make an Alex Van Halen drum sound video. He played drums on my video, so I said, I'll play guitar on your video. So he's doing a version of Unchained. And so I had to learn the bass yesterday. So just thinking. I'm trying to remember, so the guitar goes like this. Let's play guitar and bass at the same time. I don't know if I can do that, actually. I really want to just put the bass down. Got problems. Those are really expensive bass, so I like to be a little more careful with it than I am with my guitars. But anyway, so right, that's how the guitar goes. Yeah, I'm talking about the B section. Okay, so first of all all that is going on, right? The bass just goes like this. It's hard for me to remember exactly where it changes, but you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about. So, and it sounds like it's tuned lower because I dropped the guitar, but whatever, you get it. So okay, so my point is that the bass hangs. Listen to it and you'll hear it. The bass hangs where the guitar changes, and the bass just pedals on without any kind of that rhythmic stuff going on, right? So where they chose, it's genius. Like, where the bass changes isn't where the guitar is doing way more, is my point, than the bass when it comes to moving around. And that is part, another great one is let's see, AC/DC. AC/DC, Highway to Hell. Okay, so the bass pedals on It's A, right? I'm on the highway to hell, and I'm bound down, right? So the bass just pedals on A when the guitar goes to D. On the A to D, G, D, and the bass does that, right? But the bass doesn't make the change to the D the first time. It only goes G, D, right? So those are some of the things like on bass that you want to listen to, and just like listen to a couple of those tunes in a rock. If maybe you want to play a different kind of music, I'm not even sure, but in a rock context, it's just really cool to me sometimes where the bass will pedal and not change. And then it kind of builds tension when you do make the change on the bass for the, like, I don't know, it's just really cool. Like, you know, You Got Another Thing Coming by Judas Priest. The bass just plays F sharp, you know, so, right, the chords, you know, like, so, right? But the bass just goes. And I think the bass does that the last time, right before we kick into the verse, right? So the bass just pedaling on F sharp, and then finally doing and joining the guitar for the riff at the end is part of what's so cool. So those little things, that's a lot. I hope that was helpful. It's a lot of information, but was it my Pete Thorn's bass guitar lesson? I mean, I don't consider myself a great bass player, but I really love playing bass, actually, and I love studying this stuff. And I love the simplicity of great rock bass, and then where it changes. Now, you know, if you're into Paul McCartney or John Paul Jones or stuff, then things get a lot more interesting, you know, as far as at least from a playing perspective. But sometimes the beauty is in the simplicity, you know, especially in a hard rock context. Okay, let's see. There's one more super chat here. Still planning on buying your signature guitar in the future. Now going to buy a Gibson Les Paul Classic or 60 Standard. My opinion. You know, I'm not sure exactly what is going on with the Gibson line lately, like what the features are. But I have seen a couple of those sort of 50s or 60s spec standards, you know, that they've got out now, and they seem like really nice guitars. The Classic was always like, it was a bit of a deviation. It had ceramic magnet humbuckers in it and a thinner neck and like some kind of like it was almost like, you know, when Fender does those vintage takes on vintage Strats, but they'll put a 6105 frets on it and maybe a slightly flatter radius. They'll do a 9.5 or something instead of 7.5 or something. It's kind of like some modern updates or something. So you want to look at that stuff and see what the features are, which ones are supposed to be more like, if you want the old stuff, you know, like neck shapes and stuff, or if you want a more modern take, you know, look at the specs of the pickups and stuff, and then that'll help you decide. But you're saying for rock and hard rock, I would probably maybe look at the Classic and the specs on the pickups and stuff and see if they're, maybe you don't want the PAF thing. Maybe you want a little, like, you know, like maybe they've got one that's got the you know, slightly hotter pickups and stuff. And my guess is that would be the Classic, actually. At least that's the way it used to be. You know, the Classics had the 500T humbucker or whatever, and I don't know what's in them now, but those would be the things I would consider. To me, it's like metal and hard rock and stuff. Guys usually want a slightly more modern neck, a little thinner, not big 50s or whatever, you know, and maybe slightly hotter pickups and stuff. So that would be the determining factor for me. We got 456 people online. Nice to have you all here. 60s tribute is beautiful, says Warren. Yeah, and that's going to be a little bit of thinner neck than the 50s version, you know, similar guitar probably otherwise, but yeah. What else we got? You guys talking about Judas Priest. Tony, we played Breaking the Law to close our set. We love some old Judas Priest. There I was completely wasting, out of work and down. Or does he say wasted? So all inside, it's so frustrating. It's a trip from town to town. Okay, I'll stop. Feel as though nobody cares if I live or die. So I might as well begin to put some action in my life. Breaking the law, breaking the law. Breaking the law, breaking the law. So much for that golden future. All right, I'll stop. I promise this time. I can't even start. Bob Daisley is my favorite, says Scott. Bob Daisley was great. He's a cool dude and didn't get his due credit. I feel like he got kind of screwed around. You know, he's a legend, right? I mean, the other guys, everybody is, Randy. Yes, but the other guys were cool too. Some great drums. And was it Lee? Wasn't he the drummer? Curse, is that his name? I hope I got that right. At least on Blizzard of Oz. Do I have that right? I don't know. You Aussie freaks. Scott, tell me, am I right? Okay. Well, let's here's a cabinet question. I just got a cab with V1216s. The high-end roll-off is too severe. Looking to mix something to help. I don't know what kind of speakers those are. Are those like Eminence or something? Or are they like a different kind of speaker? Looking to mix something to help. Oh, you were talking to someone else about it. I see. You were talking to William. Well, throw a V30 in there, I would say. That'll do it. In my opinion. Eating some slaw. That's good. I like that. We curse like on the Randy albums. Right, I got it. It wasn't actually Tommy. Tommy was in the live. Somebody saying, wasn't it Tommy Aldrich on the Aussie? No. It was Lee. At least on the first one. Maybe not on the second one. I'm not sure. On Blizzard of Oz, and then Diary of a Madman. Excuse me. Diary of a Madman, right? Was it Lee on that album as well? I just don't remember. I love Priest's version of Green Man Alicia. That is great, right? Really cool. Weird song to cover and super cool. What were some of the other weird covers they did? They did what's that one song I'm thinking of? Oh, I can't remember. They're such an interesting band, Judas Priest, because before all the leather and all that, like you look at them, they look like hippies, like they're crazy, it was like they were going through this, like trying to figure out their fashion stage, around probably like 1974 or 3 or something. And then they, but a really interesting band, like kind of eclectic early days. And then it became very metal, but it sort of makes the Turbo album make more sense to me, which at the time I was like totally confused. I put on that record after I was a big fan. I mean, I remember going to Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith tours. I loved Judas Priest, and then Turbo came out, and I remember putting it on, and the sequencer starts, and I'm like, okay. And get into the song a little bit further, and I was like, oh God, no, like what the hell is this? And they were experimenting with like guitar synths and stuff, and it was like it's totally shocking. But it kind of made more sense to me later on when I went back and looked at they were pretty like, they were a little all over the map. I mean, they were always like a rock and roll band, but it was pretty out there in the beginning, like as far as stylistically, they were drifting a bit. So, and then they just got heavy as hell after that and did Painkiller and all that. And it was, I don't know. But anyways, fun stuff. Greg Kelly says, got any new gear lately? I was talking earlier about the Pedal Pawn pedals. Let's just show, I'm going to get the vibe and show you guys what it looks like. Just one sec. I haven't plugged it in. Ah! Destruction. My other vibe must have heard me, they just kicked another vibe that was on the floor. Okay, here's a few. This is a pedal I'll be making a video of this week, I do believe. The Tone of the Gods pedal. Oh my God, the Tone of the Gods. It's 3 different drive circuits in one, basically, with an added master volume that you can stack and do all kinds of crazy stuff with. So we'll be listening to that. This one I already showed. This is called the Overture, a very interesting pedal from RJM. known mainly for their switchers and stuff, of course. But this pedal has MIDI. It's analog drive, but it's got MIDI and you can store presets. So analog sound, digital control, and many different sort of, overdrive sounds and circuits in there. So meant to kind of be your all-in-one one-stop shop of many different distortion sounds and overdrive sounds. Now let's look at these Pedalpon pedals. Why not? Everybody likes a good unboxing. I haven't even seen this one yet. It's a fuzz. There it is. So it's a fuzz of some sort from Pedalpon. This one I haven't tried. We'll try that maybe later today. How about this one? This one, we know what this looks like. No, we don't. You don't, I do. Oh my God. Now, my friend Richard Fortis was telling me that this is the shit as far as vibes go. Looks crazy, right? So I can't wait to plug that in and see, because, he's a picky guy and he knows a good guitar tone. He knows what he's talking about. And down on the board right now, I've got the Texas Twang, which is really going for that Stevie Ray Vaughan Hyper Strat, super glassy top end thing, and it sounds great. It's really cool. It's a treble boost of some sort, and with a few different settings and stuff, but it sounds really cool. So we will give these a try. Hendrix, says Scott. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Pedalpon has some glass top end with the volume rolled off for sure. Yeah, if you roll down the volume like from 10 to 8, it'll clean right up and just gets like hyper duper, super duper crazy Strat sounds. And then you can turn it up and get some fuzz out of it a little bit. There's 3 different settings though on it, though, that one's almost clean, and then the other 2 are I found anyway, with conservative volume settings. The other 2 are more like adding like a little bit of overdrive, and then the next one's like a fuzz, basically. But I guess I could drive the volume up harder. It would tend to, I think, kick the hell out of the front of the amp like that, though, because I noticed like with even with the volume control on it at about 9 o'clock, it was boosting into the front of my amp. So I was setting it pretty low and trying to get like kind of a bit of boost out of it. Unity do a little bit of boost when I was on 10, and then roll the guitar down. It was glass right up, and using it almost more like an EQ, like, for the kind of crazy, like what people are always trying to get their pickups to do. They spend, lots of money and stuff switching pickups out of their guitars and stuff, when the reality is it might just be a pedal you need with your regular Strat pickups, Matthew Kennedy is there in the super duper chat. And he says, looking for a pedal size amp cab sim as backup, deciding between the simplifier and amplifier box. Both nice. I know you've demoed both. Have you tried either of the new versions? I'm supposed to make a video for both, I think, actually. They both contacted me because I've done videos for them before. So I'll get on with that. I would say both the older ones are cool. I would say the one's, a modeling pedal, essentially. So one's more in the vein of a simple version of, a Helix or something more, right? Like it's a little more that thing where you've got IRs and, and then the other one's way more analog in its character. A little more like analog speaker simulation. It's a different, you know what I mean? It's like that different sound. Like, I can't tell you which way to go, but I would say, I really do like the amplifier box, especially the mini one that I did a video of. It's probably going on 3 years ago now, at least. But the little one that you could A/B like a clean and a dirty sound. So for example, you could have like a Fendery clean and a Marshall drive with an IR for each, and then it had a boost built in. That's killer. I mean, like 4 sounds out of one pedal that are like 2 different amps, basically. I mean, it sounded really good and worked really well. So I have no reservations about recommending that. I think. Yeah. That's my opinion. I just haven't tried the new one, but even the old one was great. Danny says, that's interesting. I will soon be receiving my left-handed Garnet Red. That's awesome. Have you ever considered a 24 fret version? I'm not really into 24 fret guitars. And the reason is I like I can show you. I like the thing where the node, that harmonic node that happens, If you look where that happens, watch where my finger is. It's almost right over top of the pickup. Right? Like right over the pole piece. And I believe that that has a lot to do with that Hendrix chimey bell-like stuff that people like about the neck pickup on, specifically on a Strat, but also on all guitars. Where that happens is just to the north of that pole piece. If you put 24 frets on a guitar, it pushes the neck pickup down further, and it has a different sound to me. It's part of why I like 21. I ordered this 21. I go the other way. I could go 20 frets and probably be happy. I don't really dig like those super high frets on the guitar, to be honest. I don't go play up there much. I don't. I mean, it's okay, you know, and I like 22. You know, it's fine for me, but I never need to go higher than that 22nd fret. So that's just me. Yeah. I think that harmonic node being there, it contributes to the sound where the pickup is placed underneath it, you know? So let's see what else we got here. There's another super chat from Big Wave Dave. He says, "Hey Pete, I use my volume knob all the time. Is there any benefit to using volume pedal? Any tips?" You know, I use my volume pedal now in the loops of my amp. So I can, the great thing about having a volume pedal in your effect loop, a low impedance volume pedal with a properly buffered effect loop on an amp, and you won't lose any tone or anything, is that you can then like turn your amp down. For when you're at a rehearsal or something, you can still get your full distortion sound if you've got a kind of gain-based amp and you got a loop in it. And you can back the volume down and then kind of practice, you know, without bothering everybody at like sound check or whatever. So I really like that. And then also just having a little bit of volume control over your total tone at the gig. You know, you might find you use that where like, well, I want a full distortion sound, but I want it to sit behind the singer or something, so I can, you know, just back the volume down and then not, you know, I'll do that sometimes now. So it's useful, but I do in some ways miss having a volume pedal in front of the amp, which is the way that I always used to have it for many years. And then it just becomes like a volume control on the guitar. And then you're writing it for distortion, for less for overall volume. If you run your amps like edge of breakup or anywhere from that on up to crunchy to lead, then you don't really get less volume when you turn the pedal down. You just get less distortion, right? Just like on the volume control on a guitar, if you run your amps like that. Now, if you run your amp clean, you will get less, of course. So it just depends how you set up your stuff. But I like that too, because I can keep my hands on the guitar, and when I'm playing, if I feel like I want a little less drive, I don't have to go to the volume on the guitar. It's not really that big of a deal to just, you know, but something nice about having it on the floor too. Tim Pierce does it all the time, and he talks about it in videos where he sets his amp ups to be crunchy, and then he rides the volume pedal if he wants a clean sound. So like he uses that. I think his favorite amp for studio stuff for many years has been that RSA 23 that he kind of runs hot, and you know, like, or not, you know, but it's got some drive, a little bit of overdrive to it when it's full out, you know, when he hits a hard chord or something. But then through his pick and touch, pickup selection, and then also the volume pedal that's right underneath his foot all the time, he can ride that and get different levels of onset of gain and stuff. So he's always using the volume pedal like that. So those are kind of the two ways to do it. And the reason why, you know, what would be more important for you, riding the dynamics of the distortion and the overdrive, or an overall volume control over your tone in a live situation. I find that can be useful for like practicing parts at low volume and stuff with distortion. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see here. Ian says, with Wilkinson saddles, do you stretch the strings before or after locking? I stretch them before. I do everything before. Get the guitar basically to the point where it's like consistent and staying, you know, like where I stretch and it's not really going flat anymore, and then I'll lock the string down. So you kind of want to do all the stuff that you would do to set the guitar up before locking, like including setting the action. You know, like if you change the height of the saddle and it's locked in there, that's going to be weird because it's locked under the saddle. Now you're pulling against the, right? Imagine it. You're pulling against the, it won't work right, you know. So you got to do everything before locking the string, basically, and make locking the string the very last thing you do. And then you'll leave it locked until you change again. Yeah. Travis says, I think it was Malcolm Young that referred to that part of the neck beyond the 12th fret as the dusty bit. Yeah, I like to think of it as the upper register up here versus the cash register, which is down here. This is where you make the cash. Yeah, certainly on bass. Our friends, our 6-string bass friends, they need to get back into cash register. No, just joking, poking a little fun at the bass players. Cody says, if you were starting out gigging and needed a flexible amp, would you go Synergy or a traditional amp? I don't know. I mean, it really depends. You know, you could go either way. They're both valid. And, you know, really, there's no right or wrong. You know, some folks are going to want to channel switch between a whole bunch of different amplifiers, and other ones are like, I just plug into the amp and get my tone and roll the volume up and down. It really depends. Sorry, I don't have a better answer than that. It's hard though. I'm gonna put on my glasses because I'm tired of squinting. That's better. Okay, still on a bridge bucker search, says John. I have the Thornbucker Plus, love it, but not quite hot enough. I understand that. You suggested the 2nd degree black belt, but was wondering if you have tried the Fuego. I know the way pickup you mean from. I have. That's pretty hot. It's pretty darn hot. I'll tell you what I did try last week that I really enjoyed was the Cirrus Ssh Plus. It's in John's signature guitar. Like John Surr, he's got a signature model that is kind of like all his spec that he really likes. You know, it's a Carina Limba body, and it's a very nice guitar actually. And it's got the Wilkinson bridge on it that I use and stuff. But anyways, yeah, SSH Plus in the bridge, and I was going between his guitar and my signature guitar when I was out at Surr last week, and back and forth how different they are. And his pickup is fun in that JB kind of way. You know, it's a hot. You know, it makes the amp take off and the feedback really easy, and it's just fun. So, I wonder if the Plus is even like beyond like SSH. It was kind of like that could be fun to try. I'm kind of like I'm like as people do, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm going through like kind of like different like I want to try some different things like hotter, you know, or whatever. Because I've used the same PAF style thing for quite a while, and I get it. I know what you mean when you want a little hotter, and I might be working on something like that as well. So. But anyways, yeah, a little more juice sometimes is a cool thing. You know, you kind of can't have it all in a humbucker. You know, it's like singles are easier because it's like you can kind of only go so hot or they just don't sound good. And it's like, but humbuckers, it's like sometimes real hot is fun, and sometimes PAF is fun. You know, just depends. So, sorry, I don't have a better answer for you right now, but and thank you for doing the super duper chat. Deshaun says, sorry if I repeat, my internet is weird. I think my chat was lost, or I didn't see it. I'm sorry if I missed it. I'm listening to lots of go-go's or breeders till Tuesday. What is your opinion of their songs and guitar work? I love stuff like that. I mean, the Go-Go's. Did anybody see the Go-Go's? I think you mean the Go-Go's because you said to go-go and then without an S, but, the Go-Go's are cool, man. Like, and I didn't realize like there's a great documentary. Was it on HBO or I can't remember, but you can find it if you search on your cable box or whatever for Go-Go's documentary. They were so revolutionary, kind of. There hadn't been an all-girl band that was. They really started as a punk band, and they could barely play. And then they got better and learned as a band, you know, learned to play together. And they got, you know, a drummer that could really play, and that's really helpful, obviously. And then Charlotte could play and write, and then they kind of just went from there. But then Jane became a really good writer too. And I had a crush on Kathy. So, but yeah, they're just such a cool band. I mean, they talked about how they went to London, went over to England and toured with the Specials, I think, and had a great tour over there. But they were still like unknown basically in LA. And by the time they got back to LA, they had a show at the Whiskey, I think, and it was packed and crazy. And they were like, whoa, something's going on. And their single had, like, Rodney Bingenheimer had been playing their stuff. And I guess We Got the Beat came out and started blowing up. Just still indie, you know. And then I think they signed to a major after that. Didn't they sign to Island or something? It was Miles Copeland, right? I think. Anyway. Rest is history, but great documentary. And I love that stuff, man. And I love that they were so like, you know, they were talking about how like they would play the gigs with the Specials and stuff. And like people were throwing stuff at them and they were like, cause they're like an all girl punk band. They were like, we don't care. You know, it's cool. Like they're badasses, you know, pretty neat. I like them, you know. I remember like back then I used to listen to all kinds of stuff like growing up, you know, so I wasn't, I was heavily, obviously, I was just like quoting a bunch of Judas Priest and stuff. I was into that, but I liked the Go-Go's too at the same time. You know, I like the Pretenders a lot. You know, I was always into that. There was so much great music in the 80s, honestly, right? I mean, there was great music in the 70s, great music in the 80s, great music in the 90s, but my formative, you know, when I started getting tuned in was the 80s. It was just my age. And there was so much great shit coming out. I remember buying the Go-Go's album, buying you know, Tattoo You. Like, you know, that was like a new record when I got it. El Loco, ZZ Top, you know, I went to the concert and I remember buying it. And, you know, I was that, I'm that old, friggin' old as dirt. And I loved it all, you know. Buzz says, I have a Sir SSS and considering putting a humbucker in the bridge. Do you happen to know if it's routed for that beneath the pickguard? I don't know that. I think sometimes. Good question. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry you did a super chat for me to tell you I don't know. I'll tell you what, I'll ask John. That's the why you come here, right? Because you know, let's just ask him. Where is he there? Are your guitars that start out as 3 single coils routed with a humbucker route under the pickguard? I'm going to say no. But let's see what he says. See if he gets back to me. He's probably doing the gardening or something. It's a Sunday. Pete, you're still a youngin', says, oh, I don't know about that. I'm solidly middle age. Maybe on the upper end. Who else we got here? Best time to be a music lover, 70s and 80s. It was a magic time, like concerts and stuff were so fun then. You know, the concert industry had, you know, arena shows stuff had come to the point where it was like the stages and the sound and the lighting and everything was so incredible by that point, you know, the magic, because it wasn't like that in like 1971. It was cool, but it wasn't that, you know, like that. Well, you go see Genesis and it's like, oh my God, like this experience, you know. So I got to see all that and it was so cool. Yeah. What else have we got here? Let's see. Every style was played back to back on MTV back then. That's true, man. It was a lot. It was a lot of music. Like you got to see it, a little bit of everything. It was pretty cool, you know. Yeah, you'd see like, you know, The Cure, and then you'd see Ice-T, and then you'd see, you know, Van Halen, and you'd see like a lot. It was cool. It wasn't so, you know, it was a little bit of everything. Billy Idol. Billy fucking Idol. Absolutely. Yeah, love Amy Mann's music on the Magnolia soundtrack. I don't know what brought that up, but I agree. That is a great Wise Up. That's a great song. God, that's a beautiful song by Amy Mann. She's really terrific. I guess maybe you're just talking about artists from the 80s. Oh, maybe because wasn't she was the singer in Till Tuesday, right? Isn't that right? Amy was, right? I forget that sometimes. I think of her as a solo artist, like for so long, you know. Arthur says, I was always a Bangles guy. Susanna Hoffs. Susanna was great, too. She was another one. Like, super cool. They were awesome musicians as well. Vinnie Vincent actually played the guitar in Hazy Shade of Winter. Really? I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting. Pretty cool. Danny talking about the PT-15. Yeah, somebody mentioned Voices Carry. My knees hurt, right? That was a great song, right? That's Amy, sure. Of course. Love your promo for the PT-15 IR. Sounds so good. Thank you. Do you just ask people like Laurie, hey, come by and play an awesome solo? Both of you shred on that piece. Do you know that Laurie on that was the first take? She came in and sat down. I got a sound, made sure there was level, made sure to hit record and go, do you want to just see where we're at? You know, and I just hit record. So the first solo in the song was first take. So my reaction is like, or you're seeing me do that, you know, it was just like, yeah. And then I think she did like 3 more and I was like, you got it the first time. The first one was it. And so I love that it's in the video and captured and is honest like that, because she totally nailed it. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I asked her if she would come by and do that, and as a favor. And then I actually ended up, she was doing her solo record and she asked me if she had a couple guitars to cut on, like a couple songs worth of guitar to cut for her last record. I'm not sure if she's had another one else since then. I don't think so. But it was the one that Satriani actually ended up playing a solo on, I think. But one of those songs, she came by here and cut her rhythm guitar parts on. And I, of course, that was, so we did the favor from one another. She played on my amp demo, and then I recorded her for a couple of days doing, sessions. And it's all good. But yeah, she's a friend, she lives close. And, I love her playing. She's great. So cool. Our Lips Are Sealed. Great track. That is a great track. And who wrote that was Jane. And I guess that it's in the documentary. I didn't realize, but she was kind of new to songwriting. And it's got that really unique, it doesn't matter what they say. That part of Our Lips Are Sealed, the B section, is such unique chord changes. And she really didn't know what she was doing. And that's how, she just moving her fingers around and came up with that great part. And that's all in the documentary, but I love that. And that's one of their best songs for sure. Such a cool tune. Amazing doc on the Go-Go's HBO. Yeah, really, really, really good. If you haven't seen it, I love music documentaries about just about anybody, even if I'm not really into the band. I find them really interesting. So whether you like them or not, watch it. Pretty cool. Kevin says Pete's got t-shirts for sale. Just bought one. I do. I've got those shirts in the down below the video description. Generally, the shirts down there. And hey, if you want a t-shirt, or that's where. Oh, shit! I don't have my mug. This is my. I bought this in Nashville actually. On was it downtown on Broadway or whatever? Tools of the trade. You've got your Les Paul and your Strat. I've had it for many years, as you can tell by the stained bottom. Okay, what else we got here? Oh, Vincent says up there in the super chat, had the pleasure of hanging with Joel Hoekstra yesterday at a gig, and he and my buddy Brand Gibbs played. Joel's latest album is so good, huge guitars. He told me it was all done with the Quad Cortex. Really, that's interesting. Joel, if you don't know, was student MI at the same time as me. We went the same year. So I've got great memories of going to school with Joel, and how, he was awesome back then. He was rad and great. One of the best guitar players at the school. And we've known each other 30 years. So a long time, but he's terrific, he's done so well for himself. So that's awesome. Stuart says, hey Pete, would you recommend a standard plus Thornbucker bridge pickup for a PRS S2 standard satin? It's all mahogany. I'd go plus. It's my favorite. As far as, just generally speaking, I'd go plus, I think. So that's the way I would go with it. Thanks, Stuart, for doing the super chat. The other one is terrific for if you want the truer sort of lower gain, really low wind. It's great for that. So they balances really well with the neck pickup. Either one, they're very close in output, really, to be honest. So yeah. Let's see here. And she's an attorney. That's Laurie. Yeah, she is an attorney. I know, right? It's kind of crazy. It's like, how does she have time to learn how to play guitar like that and pass the bar? She's an attorney in Brazil. She's whatever they call it, to be licensed to practice law down there. She's done that. Isn't that amazing? She can play guitar like that, and she's an attorney. I think she comes from a family of attorneys that are also musicians. Her father, as I understand it. Alex says he wants to play like me. What's the plan? I would, I don't know, like me. You got to listen to a lot of Judas Priest and a lot of Go-Go's, and then just pick it all up. Go for it. Honestly, what else? Walnut is a wood for guitars. I have never had a walnut guitar, so I shouldn't comment because I don't know. But I kind of like I remember when Fender made the Elite Strats, like the standard version is the one that Ty Tabor became real famous for playing. But they made a deluxe model, and it was walnut. Remember that? And gold knobs and stuff. I liked it back. It was kind of cool looking, but I have no idea how it sounded. So no clue. Honestly, that's another question for John, by the way. Did he get back? Nope. Haven't heard back. I'm waiting to hear back about the single coil route on his guitars, whether or not they wrote for humbuckers and all of them. I don't think they do. Okay. What else we got here? I'm just going back through the chat. I love that Rush song with Amy Mann. Funny video though, right? The video's so bad. I love Rush though. Come on, time stands still. Yeah. Oh yeah. You even said, sorry, even before I only read the first part of your sentence. Unarguably, no. Come on, the worst video of all time. And I love as an artist, but come on, it's the Billy Squier one. If you haven't seen it in a while, the Rock Me Tonight video. Come on. He's amazing though. The dude is amazing. Like great. I mean, we were watching some old Billy Squier last week with Jeff on guitar. Friedman found it and sent it to me. Concert from maybe 82 or something, 81, 82, something like that. It was so good. They had great cranked Marshall plexi sort of tones. He always had a great sound, great guitar tones. But oh man, that video, there were some bad videos in the 80s when you watch them now. Oh my God. I mean, the whole concept, and it all seemed pretty normal. Like, and now when you watch them, you're like, God, but it's, I guess it's charming, right? It's like my first YouTube videos. Let's see. Jeff Shield says, I missed a super chat from Stuart. I'm going to look back for it here, and I'm sorry, Stuart, about that. And if I can't find it, I'll ask you to ask the question again if you're still here. Oh, there we go. I see it. Oh no, I did answer that. I did. I got to it. Just while I'm back here in the chat, way back, here's a question from Davis. Says, if anyone has never owned a vintage Marshall, where should they look? Marshall, SV28, Seriatone, Germino, or somewhere else? I tried a little SV20 head. Sorry, it was the combo. Excuse me. It was the combo, and it sounded great. I don't know if it was like the greatest plexi ever or whatever, but it definitely does that thing. I plugged in and it had a really microphonic preamp too, if I remember. So I wasn't able to, whistling at me, but the tone, you could tell it was like, this is the right idea. They're pretty cool. And people seem to really like them. I know Doug Aldrich got one and he thought it was cool. So as an introduction to that tone at a reasonable volume, I think those are probably a pretty good way to go. Seriatone, I'm not super familiar with. My friend Ichiro in the band that I play in Japan, he has one that's a Dumble style, and he used it for a tour, and it was cool. And I know people seem to like them. Germino, I have a Germino here that's great, but we're talking about getting into an upper and sort of more boutique. At that point, we can consider SL68 and some other amps as well. So I would say if you're on a budget and you want to get that flavor, those little Marshalls are pretty cool. They don't look like much on the inside, like the way they're built and stuff, but it's it gets you in the zone. It's a fun little amp and cool, and probably a really fun mod platform too. I would say, like, if you want to, I would love to see what somebody like Dave would do, like Friedman would do to one of those. Not necessarily a gain mod or anything, but maybe just to bring it even closer to an old one or something, see what his take on them would be. We got 502 people online. Great to have you all here. Arthur says, Pete, who's an artist you had a spontaneous jam with? Casey and the Sunshine Band jumped on stage with me once, and we did My Girl for a girl in the crowd. Spontaneous jam. I'd have to think about that. Let's see. I'm not thinking of any right now, but like some very last minute kind of things that happened that were really cool were like Peter Frampton playing with Chris Cornell in Nashville in 2007. He came down to sound check, and I just found out that afternoon that he was coming, and we were able to do a quick check, and then he got up and played Black Hole Sun and also did a version of Slaves and Bulldozers, and we went into a Whole Lot of Love, and like that was a really fun night. Really cool. So not totally spontaneous, but it was short notice, and that was really cool. Another one that comes to mind was I was playing the Santa Barbara Bowl with Don Hanley, and Emmylou Harris came down, and I had to learn a song very quickly. And I thought, and then they asked me to play the solo, and I thought, okay. And it was a complex little tune. I don't remember the name of the song at all, but I didn't want to read a chart or anything like that, and it had some changes in it, modulation. It was like one of those country tunes that was like old school, but it's got changes and a modulation, and just kind of never quite does the same thing twice. And I had to shed, like, from the sound check until the gigs. We did a quick sound check, played through it, and then from the sound check to the gig, I shedded that tune just to make sure, because I thought, I'm not getting on stage and sucking with Don Henley and Emmylou Harris, forget it, And so I made sure, so that was pretty cool. That's a good memory. Those are the only ones that are coming to mind. I'm sure there's some other spontaneous stuff that happened that I'm just not thinking of right now, where other people got up to play. We used to have a lot of guests with Chris that would come down. Like, I remember the singer, his name's Andrew, I think, from Wolfmother. He got up and sang. It was probably Hunger Strike with us one night. That was really cool. That was awesome. And the singer from oh God, I'm forgetting the name of the guy's band. I'll think of it. Some other folks, came out, and it was cool. Various folks got up and jammed over the years. What's my favorite instrument? The guitar. Greetings from Ireland. What's up? No, my favorite guitar? I don't know. I've got the ones with a lot of sentimental value, and I have to say, like, the one that I would reach for is my signature model for most stuff, because I would, if I could only have one guitar, honestly, it would probably be that, because I know I could work forever on that one guitar, because it does so many different sounds, and it's really comfortable, and it would be a good tool for the rest of my, I feel like I love my old 335, but if that's all I had, it'd be cool. I could get by, and I would play that guitar, and it'd be awesome, but I would miss the Strat. Whereas I wouldn't miss the Strat as much on my signature guitar, and I wouldn't miss the 335 as much if I had my signature guitar, if that was all I could have. Like, if all I had was in my old Strat, I would miss the 335, Does that make sense? More of that great tool, jack of all trades, guitar would be, I don't know. I guess it's important to me when I think about my work, and like how I would get by if I only had one thing. Yeah. Did I get all the super chats? No, that's Jeff Shields up there in the super chat, and he says, for the coffee pot happy Sunday, I got myself a Revolta this week, so I'm in a merry mood. Thank you, man. I did actually. We got the new coffee dealio around here, and I got to pay for my half of it. So. Thanks for the suggestions. I appreciate the super chats. I'll be putting it towards the coffee fund. Todd says a D28 from Chris has to be favorable. Yeah, of course. That guitar, as far as favorite guitars go, definitely. Sentimental value in that. Costas Z says he's looking for a tape delay with presets. Any suggestions? I value the warm sound over functions. Tape delay with presets, probably some of the best ones I can think of are, the Strymon is pretty great. I mean, a timeline is a really great thing. You can get really good tape delay sounds in there with the versatility of all that other stuff too. I like the delays a lot in the H9 too. Tape delay, vintage delay. They're really good. I'm just trying to think if there's something programmable. Source Audio Collider, I believe it's called, with the delay and reverb. It does cool tape delay. Any other of course, I got a DD500 on my board. A DD200 would be probably enough to get you maybe where you want to go too, because it's got tape, right? I think so. Done a video on it, I just can't remember. I've got the 500, and it's definitely got great tape delay sounds, as well as I tend to use, like, I've got an Echoplex on my board, so the MXR version, which is awesome, and so for tape delay I use that, and then like in the loops of my amps I tend to use digital delay a lot. I was thinking about this the other day, and it might be a cool video to make. I was also going to ask you guys for ideas on videos. Like, I thought it might be cool to do a video on phase and univibe. What's the difference? And then the different delays. It's probably been done a million times, but I thought, like, how I approached the use of different delays: digital, analog, tape, the different sounds. What's cool about each. So I think there's some misconceptions. Like, for example, you say the warmth of tape delay, whereas I find tape delay to actually be like warmer than digital, but quite bright in comparison to analog. So it even when it's bright, it can have, I know what you mean, like a rounded off quality to it, to the edges compared to a digital delay. But to me, actually, a digital delay with the high end dialed back is a darker thing than a tape delay. Can be sort of more aggressive and clearer than digital, where you warm it up a little bit, because you've generally got the high and low filters and you can kind of change the tone of it, and it's very controlled. It's a different sound than the sort of more aggressive, somewhat brighter, more distorted, sometimes tape delay. Jumps out more sometimes. So anyways, this depends. Gary says, what do you think of Sonic Youth tones? I like Sonic Youth. I love. Did you see Kim do when Nirvana did I guess it was the Hall of Fame induction, right? Wasn't that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, or was it on the Grammys? I don't remember. But when Kim, like Annie St. Vincent did it, Joan Jett did it, and then it was Kim. And that's one of the greatest things I'd seen in years. Like, it was like, oh my God, like, that's it. That's the spirit. There it is. Everybody was great that night, but it was like, that was punk rock. That was the 90s. That sounds like what I remember that being like. And she just, because she is that. So it's like, but hearing her kind of with the surviving members of Nirvana was like, oh, that's a band. That's a cool band. The spirit was so like, it was awesome. So I like that. I like that a lot. Let's see. What do I think about Bad Cat amps? Don't know a lot about Bad Cat. I'm more familiar with Matchless, which I've used over the years. So the original kind of, DC30, SC30, I think was the single speaker one, which are brilliant, awesome. And I'm sure the Bad Cat models are really similar to those. I'm not sure about the other ones, though. I'm sorry, I just don't know that much about them. Tony says, are we doing 90s nostalgia now? I'm still basking in the 80s. We can move around. It's cool. I've got nostalgia for both decades for sure. Ben Coombe says, hit that like, folks. Please hit the like. I guess it's a good time to bring up my affiliate link down in the description below if you need to buy some prime tone guitar picks, or you're looking for a TC Ditto looper pedal, or possibly, like they said on Tone Talk the other day, they said, if you want to go and buy a very expensive reverb guitar, please hit the link in the video description below, and it helps the channel. Yeah. Maybe perhaps this isn't expensive. You guys saw my video on this a little while ago. Great little thing. I showed you that last week, but they've got these at Sweetwater. Sure they do. Anyway, down in the vid description below. All right. Enough about that. Ben just put it up. Thanks, Ben. You rule. There it is. I heard Boys of Summer on the radio yesterday and got taken back. It was heavy stuff. Okay, so my taken back for the week, I want to talk a little bit about Canada and about how my buddy Phil X gave my number to Kim Mitchell, who is just like one of my biggest influences. And Kim's been hitting me up a little bit, and we've been chatting occasionally. He's asked me a few questions about amps and stuff. Which is amazing to me. And so I haven't listened to Kim for a while, not out of any other, you just don't sometimes, and like listen to certain artists that maybe you listened to a lot in the past. So I went and, you got to, if you're a Kim Mitchell fan, okay, for those that don't know who Kim Mitchell is, if you're in Europe or something, or maybe part of the States where, he didn't have a big hit song in the 80s and stuff, he's a legendary Canadian rock and roll singer, songwriter, guitar player, and an influential guitar player. Paul Gilbert cites him as an influence because he did some really interesting things. It's an amazing phrasing and choice of notes. And then he would do some sort of 3 notes per string run, like in the late 70s, early 80s, that was extremely, for the time, like pretty technical and he was really influential. I mean, I think for a lot of guitar players, certainly for me. And he was just always so interesting and fun, kind of eclectic. He was in a band called Max Webster in the 70s. That was I don't know how to describe them other than it was prog mixed with rock, mixed with like a bit of a, I sometimes I say like the Canadian Frank Zappa or something. And then he kind of went way more AOR, like straight up rock and roll and stuff, but still with a bit of that interesting bent for sure in the 80s and then into the 90s, and had some really big hits and platinum albums in Canada and all that. So anyway, big influence on me. So the fact that I've been chatting with him a little bit is a real thrill for me because I'm just such a fan. Well, so I put on his album the other day, Kimbo a Logo, which is this, kind of landmark album that came out in 1984. It's the one that's got Go for a Soto on it, which was maybe his biggest hit in the States, because he did cross over a little bit into the States. And anyway, I listened to the whole record the whole way through, and I haven't probably listened to it, just I don't know why, for like 30 years, and I put it on and I've heard songs from it, but not the whole thing, the album tracks, the deep cuts, the whole way through. I listened to the record maybe twice the whole way through, and I know every note and every harmony and every lyric and everything on that record. And it was so weird to put it on and cool and like go back. Like I haven't had that happen in quite a while where it took me back so hardcore. And I just felt like I was, it's emotional almost because I felt like I was back home in the 80s, and my folks have passed away and stuff, and I'm older now and stuff, and it really brought me back. It felt the same, so it was so cool, and I just haven't had that happen in a while with a record. So I'm just such a big fan of his and stuff, and the music is so great. So I love that record, Akimbo a Logo, if you haven't listened to it. But anyway, Tony, thanks for saying, because you spurred that story about, and Boys for Summer does that for me too, by the way. I mean, like, never when I was playing with Don did I not have that feeling playing that song, kicking into the chorus. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever, because I can remember waking up for school when I was 14 and that song would be on the clock radio, when I would wake up, so it was really cool to get to play that with him and stuff. Now I just missed a couple super chats that I'm gonna get to right now. I haven't forgotten about you, Absolute Mayhem. You're up in Canada, some Kim Mitchell. Is it Ben's birthday? Thanks for letting me know that, Absolute Mayhem. Happy birthday, Ben. Let's sing Happy Birthday to Ben. That's awesome, man. Happy May 24th to all the Canadians watching. That's amazing. Kim Mitchell. Max Webster is so underrated. I agree. Max Webster is so cool. I've seen Kim Mitchell 4 times. Says Preston. That's awesome. Love Max Webster. Yeah. If you've never heard Battle Scar, that's Max Webster and Kim Mitchell band in the studio at the same time. Rush is what I meant to say. It's Kim Mitchell's band, Max Webster, right? And Rush in the studio playing at the same time, right? And they cut this song together called Battle Scar. So it's got Kim and Getty on it singing vocals together and stuff. Listen to Battle Scar. Do your classic rock soul some good. Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Paul says the Canadian Frank Zappa, awesome. I don't know how to describe it because it was so wacky sometimes. Like some of the music is so crazy, And I loved how they would do, like in Max Webster, how they would sometimes play the last 2 bars of the song would have nothing to do with the rest of the song musically. They would do the weirdest outros that were just like some other. They'd switch the groove, I can't think of a song right now, but where it would just completely go left field for the outro, and that was so cool to me, really neat, like awesome. Yeah. Key tracks, Kim Mitchell tracks. Like, what are some of my favorites to go listen to? Check out the song "Called Off." I love that song. It's beautiful and dark at the end of the Akimbo Logo album. Kids in Action, I love. We want modern thrills. We want rock and roll that kills. Yes, we do. High Class and Borrowed Shoes, of course. Diamonds. Let's get super left field, Check out that one, which they recently did. He did a cover of his own song, a Max Webster, whatever, recreation with the Bare Naked Ladies. That was really great. Yeah. Okay, so I think I missed a super chat still, so I got to go back and grab it. There it is. Joe says, I own 2 Plexitone lead Archer clean plus old Plexitone in boost mode, and the gold one for rhythm. Is the Plexi Ranger worth the upgrade? They're similar. The Plexi Ranger is really cool, like having a treble boost in the same pedal. It's a neat voice, If you already have a Plexitone and you love the sound, and then you could try boosting with a Rangemaster style pedal and see if, if you already have one, you're probably there, but if you want it all in one, it is a really great Plexi Ranger, or the Engine also from Drybell, similar, Plexi with a treble booster in it. Both are great. I don't know, we watch my videos, I guess, and see if you hear enough difference. I probably did them through the PT100, and so you'll get an idea of the tones. Todd says Kim Mitchell has a lot of personality too. He does. He's so cool. He's awesome. The coolest. A lot of personality. Yeah, I mean, he'd like just kind of like, OPP hat and the bike shorts, like on stage all through the 80s. His outfit was awesome. No fucks to give. He was great. So awesome. A big influence on me. Big influence. Big influence. His phrasing is so great. Listen to the solo on Called Off, at how he plays behind and how he doesn't come in all the time, like right on the one. It's so laid back and beautiful. It's such great guitar playing. So much great guitar playing on. Okay, how about the song Rumor Has It? Check out that song from Akimbo Logo. Album cut, total crazy, super fast tempo song, but it has a lot of Max Webster in it. To me, that song has this wacky kind of, and dueling kind of keyboard and guitar solo that's awesome, where there's some shred going on, and like it's really cool. Oh, also the Peter Fredette, let's give him some credit. Kind of co-lead vocalist in Kim's band, that landed so much. Like it's sort of like, it's almost like 65-35, I would say, right? With Peter singing a lot of, at least very important background vocals, similar to like that Wanted Dead or Alive Bon Jovi vibe, where you've got Richie back there, it wouldn't be the same song without him. That's what Peter's vocals, and Peter downright lead singing on some of the hits, like All We Are, where his vocal was so just impeccable and integral part of the song, so anyways. Okay. V-Bus up there in the super chat says, Pete, as someone who has always played Strat style guitars, I have a question about 335 style guitars. Why are 335s favored by session players such as Larry Carlton, Tom Bukovac? A 335 is a sleeper still, I feel like. They have so much tone and air around the notes. So if you like a guitar that's got a lot of personality, talk about the wood coming through the guitar. A semi-hollow is just like a next level, and then like, especially if you introduce a bit of volume, because it can be a little tough to control if there's a ton of volume or gain, but if you just use enough, the feedback thing, and you can feel the air pumping out of the hole in the guitar, is so cool. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like, there's a different kind of interaction with the instrument as the player that is really special. And they'll make a Les Paul feel dead, honestly. Like when you play a 335 and you listen to the tone of the notes, how big each individual note, like in the air around the note and stuff, it's just so cool. Like there's just so much character. There's an acoustic character to it that just doesn't exist in a solid guitar. So it's really neat. I don't know how else to describe it. They're just fun. Whenever I play mine, I remember taking mine to rehearsal with Melissa Etheridge, and I played one song, and she's like, "You gotta bring that guitar on the road." Right after she noticed, like, right the first song I played with it, she's like, that sounds great, and it really does. There's a lot of character. My humbuckers in my 335 are really low wind. They're like 7 point something K, those 60s humbuckers, and so much of the guitar tone comes through. It's like more of the wood pickup balance than just the pickups or whatever, really great. Yeah, that's the best I can describe. Frosty says, I was listening to Akimbo Logo last night. Isn't it great? It's so great, man. That's all. I'm going to ask him if he wants to come on sometime, do the show for sure. I kind of asked him, and I think he said he would, but I wasn't quite sure, because he's like, it was a little bit of he sort of joked in his reply, and I wasn't sure if he was like going, yeah, sure, or not. And I think he was saying he would do it. So I'll ask again, see if he'd come on, because even if you guys don't know who he is, he's like, I've never I know he's been a DJ on a Toronto station for quite a long time. I'm not sure if he still is or not, if he still does that, but I know he did for a long time, and he may still do that. So he's very comfortable, like in this format, I think, and it'd probably be just a riot, like really fun. So I'd love to have him do it if he's interested. Somebody out there, send him the video if they have. I'm too embarrassed. I'm too shy because I'm starstruck. No, I'm not, but I am, because he's, those when you're a kid, if people were a big influence on you, that's when it really you gotta keep it together. Missed my super chat, says Rich. Nothing important, just a wisecrack. What do you mean? That's some of the most important. That could be. I'm sorry, Rich. I went all the way back here and I don't see it. Can you tell me what it was? I'm sorry. Apologies. I get off going on. I get passionate about these topics that we talk about, and then I miss super chats. What a jerk I am. I'd like. Oh, here's a good question. I'd like video. Oh, because I asked for some ideas on videos. I'd love videos with your advice or tips on sounding great, both live and recorded. It's important to, like, sound wise. Are you talking about your tone or just your overall, chutzpah or whatever? Live, I tend to think the most important thing to remember many times is that once you got your rig set and it's like you're doing the best, like a lot of times I'll go to, and honestly, I've played on tour and I'll go out front and listen, and I'm not that happy with my tone in the PA, and it could be for different reasons. Maybe the PA sucks. Maybe the sound guy doesn't hear things the same way as me. Things like that happen. And I just try and remember that there's a degree of like live where you just don't have control, and people notice your tone and all that stuff a lot less. Like maybe in a club, you hear it more in a smaller environment, but in a big stage or in a theaters, and it can be diminishing returns the bigger you get, unless you've really got, if it's really together and you got a great sound guy, it's cool to go up front and listen through a big PA and go like, that sounds raging. Like I'm totally stoked. But half the time that doesn't happen almost, where you're just like, okay. And so you got to remember it's in a band context. And so it's maybe not that important anyway. So the thing to remember is that you're there to have fun and entertain and like give off that, So that's the thing. I try and not be. Recording's a different thing where I scrutinize and analyze and try and make everything perfect. But live, I do the best I can, and then like beyond that, I don't have control over everything. So I try and just, no matter what, deliver. Even if my guitar is like buried in the PA, hopefully somebody was like, "That was a great show." I don't know how else to describe it. Rich Monk says, "Go Priest's best tracks. We got another beat coming." That's great, dude. Where our lips are British steel. I don't know if I like this band. The Go Priests. That sounds like a cover band that would have like existed around LA at some point. That's pretty cool. Like an all-female Judas Priest cover band, but that like throws in like kind of like Dred Zeppelin, Is anybody Dred Zeppelin fans? I used to know Gary from Dred Zeppelin pretty well, and he was a riot, man. Oh my God, that band. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Dred Zeppelin. If you don't, then go, you young kids out there, if there are any of you below the age of like 35, you might not know. Basically like a very large Elvis impersonator fronting a reggae-based Led Zeppelin cover band is what it was. This is brilliant. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's good stuff. Yeah. Approved by Robert Plant. He liked them. Let's see here. Video idea. I'd love to see you work through transcribing a cover song from scratch and then dialing in the tones. Interested in your thought process as you work through both. That's a great idea. I mean, kind of fly on the wall stuff. That's almost more like live stream stuff. I'd be scared as hell though. But it'd be like, if I just turned on the camera, maybe it's an Instagram live thing or something where you just turn it on and then you start from scratch, come and learn the solo and just go, I don't know, people are going to see me suck for a while here. The Ramonas. That's a good idea for a cover band. I like that. What is that though? The Ramones and the Donnas? I knew the girls in the Donnas. Was that a thing? Did they actually do that? They probably did. That sounds like something they would have done. Do you know that the Donnas? I was friends with their bass player Maya. She was so funny and awesome, and she told me I was like, have you been in another band besides? Because the Donnas have a great story. So the Donnas like were a band from the time they were like 14, and then they managed to get to the point where they sold like, I think almost went gold, which they called an album gold medal because it was like based on that. I think they sold like 480,000 copies or something. Didn't quite go gold, I think. So the next one, they were like, hey, we're going to go gold this time. Maybe that one did go gold. But anyways, point being, there were 14-year-old girls that ended up basically touring on it like the world and on a really high level, and were a band until they were late 20s, early 30s, at least. So they kind of did it. Like they really did it. Like they did what the dream is. You know, you get together with your friends in the garage, and then, you know, so some of the stories she told me were so cool. Like their first record was actually recorded in a mailboxes, etc. They had a friend that had a 4-track or something and said, I'll record you, like some guy with a 4-track recorder. And he worked at mailboxes, etc. So their bright idea, you know, it's like in a kid's mind, well, we can set up in the mailboxes, etc. after hours, and I'll just record your band. So it was like people were coming in to get their mail, because it's like those mailboxes, you know, that you know what I'm talking about. And with the keys, you know, where you get your, you know, post office box or whatever, right? And there's a all-girl like teenage band in there set up one night, like recording. So it's amazing, right? And they recorded and put out that record. That was like their first album, evidently. So that's what she told me. Oh, interesting. Jay says the song with Henley and Emmylou was the Billy Sherrill tune, Too Far Gone. That's the name of the song. Thanks for reminding me up there, Jay, in the super chat. That's right. That was the song that I played at the Santa Barbara Bowl that one night with Don and Emmylou Harris. That's right. Learned it on the spot. That was scary. That was a moment of, you know, I was like, I'm not going to suck. Yeah. Not scary, but you know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to suck. That was like, you know, you feel the weight of playing with those folks and you want to do a great job. That's all I mean. So I don't want to say scary. That makes me sound like a wuss. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you feel that inside a little bit, but it's like, you know, I was going to, so anyway, but yeah, that was the tune. So Donna's mailboxes, etc. They make their first record. So the other thing she told me, because I was like, were you ever in another band? Did you ever like tour with anybody else or do any? She goes, well, I was in one other band and it was called the Electrocutes. But she goes, but it was the same. It was all the same members though. And I go, what do you mean? Like, she goes, well, this was Maya and why she was so funny and why like she was just, I really appreciated her because she's like, well, she wrote a lot of the lyrics in the Donnas, by the way. So a lot of like 50 Boys and 50 Nights and all that kind of stuff. That was all like her lyrics. It's really funny. If anybody knows these tunes I'm talking about. Anyways, what's my point? Oh yeah, the Electrocutes. She goes, well, it was all the same people. What do you mean? I said, and she goes, well, it was the same, you know, it was all the same girls and we just made a different band. And I go, so I was like, you were in the same band, and the whole thing was they were more like a new wave band and they dressed different. So it was still the girls from the Donnas, but they called it the Electrocutes, and it was more like way more new wave based, you know. And the Donnas was like, you know, Kiss, Ramones, punk rock meets rock and roll, right? Kind of awesome. I just love it. Good stuff. Yeah. Allison Roberts, Guitar Hero. Allison was awesome. Yeah, she's great. So cool. They were all cool girls, really cool girls. I love their band, man. I saw them. Okay, so the first time I saw them, and I bought a T-shirt that night. I remember it was 98 or 99. I was on tour with Adam Cohen, and we were playing at. Was there a club in Boston for any Boston people out there called TJ the Bears or something? TT the Bears, maybe. Close to the baseball stadium, you know. I remember, and there was a room upstairs that we played in, and then the bigger room was downstairs. The Donnas were down there playing, and so we played our set, and it was an earlier set. And then I got off stage and I went down. What's going on down here? And I was like, oh my god, it's this band, the Donnas. I've heard of them, and they were amazing. It was awesome. So yeah, yeah. I remember Maya on stage that night saying like on that, because she would do some of the in-between banter, kind of like Rick Nielsen and Cheap Trick, you know, and she got on the mic. She goes, any of you guys out there got blue balls? Well, this song's for you. Any all-girl band saying something like that I was like, I'm in. I'm watching the set. And I became a big fan. We became friends after that. So it was rad. Anyways, good stuff. I like the Donnas. Okay, what's the coolest guitar color? It's going to be red, as is evidenced by my preponderance lately of red guitars. But I love red. I love candy apple red. I like see-through red on my 335. I like red. Red's good. There's lots of other cool colors, and you got to mix it up, but red is a good thing. So I don't know what this means. Clean that filthy thing. You probably mean this guitar, right? No way, dude. Never. It is kind of gross on Olympic white, but that's the way they get, man. It's cool. Come on. Yeah. Tom Petty and the Heartburns. Everybody's got a Ramones kind of takeoff name. That's cool. Yeah. Let's see here. All-girl Ramones cover band. Yeah, I was just thinking that sounds like something the Donnas, they would call it the Ramonas, but I'm sure it's some other all-girl cover band, right? Would love a live stream of watching work through it. Yeah, like learning a tune. It would be pretty cool. I used to think it was Deadmau5 that used to do that would do the live streams of working on new music, and just like they'd go for like 8 hours, and sometimes you'd throw the whole idea away if it like sucked, this sucks, and you just fearlessly like trash it and start over and stuff. It's kind of cool. Joe says, I notice you don't use your pinky much in your solos. You fold it under the neck a bit. I have short pinky, it's hard to use for some things. Actually, I do use it. Generally, if it's 3 notes per string stuff, you'll see me. I just kind of reserve it more for bigger stretches. Like if I'm using, you're right, it does that. But then I go, right? So it's like it's up here, and then these, I'm doing this. But I guess that kind of, what it is? I don't use it a lot with my third finger. That's because it's hard. These fingers, like, as I understand it, they work off the same tendon or something. So I don't have a lot of facility between my third and fourth. But my second and third, I do, like everybody, right? So I use this when I have to up here. But then down here in this position, I'll use my pinky all the time. I won't do this. That doesn't happen. It goes to the pinky. So second and fourth. So that's what it is. That's just how it worked out for me. Yeah. For whatever reason. What's we got here? Andy James is known for not using his pinky, and he's phenomenal. Yeah, he's killer. Yeah, it's just not the strongest finger, right? And so it's like you tend to use it. It's like the auxiliary thing. I suppose some people, have it all together. If you're really got strong hands and stuff like that, if you're like a Jimi Hendrix with great big hands and strong fingers, it's easier to use. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Deadmau5 would do it, and he also did streams of creating the visuals for his new shows. That's cool. It's kind of interesting to give that away, like the visuals, before maybe people try and keep that under wraps. Here's an interesting question. My thoughts on Tragically Hip. So the Tragically Hip, I missed the boat on because I moved in 90. So they didn't really become a Canadian, a force in music in Canada till the 90s, right? They're a 90s band. When did they even start? I'm not sure if they were out in the late 80s or not, but it was, I think, the early 90s, right? So I was already gone. I was in LA. But when their singer became so ill, and was, for folks that don't know, their singer passed away a few years ago now, and he Scored Downey, right? That's his name, right? I don't want to screw that up. But anyways, he became, I believe it was a brain tumor, and he was given a certain amount of time to live, and they decided they would go. It's kind of a very unique story. They decided they would do one more tour, and imagine that, and it's an interesting like coming at it from the perspective of I wasn't really a fan. I didn't really know their music very well, but I watched a lot of around that time when they were doing that final tour. There was a lot of news about it and stuff coming up on YouTube, and I became very interested in it. And I watched quite a bit of the shows, the final shows, especially that last week. And it's one of the most heart-wrenching and musically sort of touching things that I've ever seen was his energy on stage at those shows. So if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's really moving because here's a guy that he knows he's only got a few months left to live, and yet he's out on tour and he's performing, and he's like the end of the set is like when he's just dancing around and kind of the look on his face, and he's like yelling, and he's like, you can just, he's like trying to get every last breath out of the music, literally, that he can. And I've never seen anything quite like it. Like it was amazing. And the final show was simulcast all the way across Canada, and they played it like in parks and like, as I understand it, like, bars, and it was a thing where you could watch it. And people, so, the final show, you saw a lot of crowd and audience reaction from, they would flash to Vancouver and then to Edmonton and to Toronto and all over the place. And they played it in their, I believe in their, aren't they from Hamilton? So I think it might've been in the hometown venue where they did the last show, and it was like the whole country was united through music watching this. And it was really beautiful. So then I sort of, that'll make you a fan, right? I was really moved by it, I have to say. And by seeing, everybody watching, it was like, this is such an amazing amount of, like the whole country just coming together. This is the whole, talking about unity, because there's so much crap in, these days with, anger and division and all that, and the bullshit that happens, but this was like through music. It was like what music's supposed to do, is this unifying thing. So, wow, like what a gift they gave, I feel like, to everybody by deciding to do that tour, and then him just deciding to share that with everybody. It's so human, and it was like, it was really moving. Anyways, if you haven't seen it, check out some of those shows. You'll see what I'm talking about. His energy. Oh, Kingston, sorry. I knew I was going to screw up something, but Kingston, Ontario, of course. Thanks, Brett. And you other guys that are correcting me. I appreciate that. Anyways, really, really, really great. Todd says, yeah, I watched it live. It was moving a short time after he was gone. Rest in peace, Gord Downing. Yeah, it was really, really brilliant. Sorry to all you guys in a lot of people in Kingston or from Kingston here. I didn't mean to screw that up. No disrespect to Hamilton either. Anyways, very hard to watch, says John. Too emotional. I loved it. I mean, that's life, man. We all go at some point. We're not all given the opportunity to face it and then decide what to do, right? And what they did was really beautiful. It was an amazing thing, to go out on a high note like that. I mean, it's heart-wrenching, but it was also perfect. I don't know. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. Lute says, what about short, fat sausage fingers and massive palms? Any suggestions? That's my 55-year-old arse. I don't have the most powerful hands. I'll say that. Like I got, kind of medium fingers, and like I struggle. For instance, that's about as fast as I can trill when I'm not warmed up. That's all I got. Now, if I warm up for about 30 minutes, it gets a lot faster, but I can't do it any faster than that when I first, and I know guitar players that can just rapid fire, just do that, I just don't have it in my left hand. If I practice a lot, it comes, but it's like, it's not a natural thing for me. So I tend to compensate through doing things other ways, for that. I do a lot of 3 notes per string stuff, or, different things where it's not just, but the like fast 2-note pentatonic things are tough for me, because I've always had that kind of, I feel like my left hand's a little slow. So I really have to work at it. So I feel your pain. It's just I'm not like the most natural guitar player. I don't feel like it doesn't just like, whereas I feel like some people have these hands that are just like, if you hear their finger hit the neck and it's like, bang, they've got this like muscle in their hand. So it's just like, and agility. So we're all different, you know. You do the best you can, I guess. What's your take on relic guitars? Well, this one started out as a relic. To be honest, it's the aging on it is about half me and half was done, you know. And I don't have any problem with them. I mean, I think that I don't like it if it's done wrong. You know, I don't like arm wear on guitars where it looks like somebody took the belt sander to it, you know, and it looks like just, you know, where it looks like somebody dragged it behind a truck or something, you know, that doesn't really happen. So I don't mind the aging as long as it looks like it actually happened under normal circumstances. And then I'm totally cool with it. And it also looks weird to me sometimes when the colors are off, like when you see aged guitars and you know what they were going for, but it's like, yeah, that's not quite a 3-color sunburst. That doesn't really look like a real 3-color sunburst, you know? Like if you've looked at a lot of Fenders over the years or whatever, and you know what they really look like, and then you see, you know, it's like, and they look a little off, you know, that bothers me then. It just doesn't, I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird. I kind of like, just like with cars, like I like to, you know, when you see an old 60s Mustang or something, it's got the right tires and the wheels are correct, you know? I'm not really into when you see ones that somebody's, I mean, if it gets into cool hot rod territory, okay, that's different. That's like seeing a Strat with a Floyd on it, a humbucker in the bridge, and it's worn to crap. You know, that looks cool. But when it's just like one thing that's off, like you know, that bothers me for what, I don't know. We're all different, right? So, yeah. Val's in Edmonton. Talk about hometown. That's my hometown. What's up? What's up, homie? What's happening? You gonna go down to Stang Guitars today, see my friend Tyler, and say hello if you do. And what else? What's some other cool Edmonton stuff? I don't know. Probably all shut down right now, right? I mean, you guys have been going through a lot of lockdown stuff. So, anyways, hopefully that gets back better soon. It's certainly getting better in California. That is for sure. That is for sure. Okay, what else we got here? Video idea. The Gibson 335 60s Cherry is $3,000. The Epiphone equivalent is $550. Shootout vid to determine for the Gibson, but then I'd have to buy those guitars, you know. It's so much easier to make videos with gear that I've got around here. So that's why I was thinking like Phaser versus Univibe, you know, something along those lines. By the way, some people are probably wondering when this Van Halen pickup video is going to happen. We booked it for June 5th, and there's like 25 pickups. I don't know how we're going to do it. We'll see how it goes, but it's going to be a lot of editing. 25 different little segments. Oh my God. But anyway, that's coming June 5th, and then probably, hopefully within a week, I'll try and get it edited and out. So I'm talking about making this thing for better part of 6 months or a year. What's my opinion on Eddie Van Halen's 90s tone? The balance era tone is your favorite. That's interesting. It's good, you know. It's different, and when you put the harmonizer on there, it's a thing. With the dirty guitar and the harmonizer, it's a thing. And it was a thing for a while that, you know, it could be, sounds like too much of a good thing or something, you know. That was my only thing with it. But I mean, Eddie, and then he moved away from it. So I guess that tells you, I mean, he probably felt the same way after a while, you know. But I think really the goal with him was always to just kind of get a wide sound because he was the only guitar player in the band. So it's like he wanted a big sound that wasn't panned in one speaker, you know. So I think that was the goal. And for a while, it's like, oh, this is brilliant, you know. And then like after 10 years, maybe he was like, okay, you know. But I like it. I mean, it just, the only problem I have with it is that the two things happen to Eddie's sound, I think, if I'm going to be critical about it, neither of which, I mean, he still wrote and played brilliantly and everything like that. But the two things that happen are when you move away from the plexi and then you add the harmonizer, so you use more preamp gain, and then you add the harmonizer, it just had a slight homogenization effect to the tone, where you don't hear as much of the uniqueness. You know, it's that thing I was talking about earlier, where with the plexi, it's just that magic thing where it goes, meow. It's like a cat, you know, when you hit the strings and it growls at you, you know. Whereas if you just hit a chord with preamp gain, it goes, ah. It's like it doesn't, you know, there's no, it's a compression thing and about the way the whole amp sags, the voltage and all that. And so when you take that out of the equation, that was the only problem I had. But it was great for the era and great for the music he was writing at the time. His playing changed too, you know, the way he wrote and the parts. I was talking about this with Dave the other day. The way he, you know, when he went, you know, right? Whatever, you know, like all that variation between, what I'm trying to say is that, okay, there was all these things that he would do between the top strings and the low strings, and then play a little riff, and then all this variety. And a lot of his stuff was like that, right? With all that kind of like bouncing around on the guitar on different parts. And he wrote a lot of parts like that in the early days, and it was so cool. Later on, around 5150, we got more. Right? Which is a little bit more, what's the word? You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't as much of that stuff going on with that interplay between the different, you know, what's another good example? Or I don't know how to play that song actually, but what's another one I can think of? Let me see. Right, that stuff where it was like this variety about so it was a riff, a chord, the harmonics, like all this stuff, and it would pop out, and then so there's all this variety to the parts that was so cool to me. And later on, it got to be a bit more that full chord kind of, right? And so that combined with the harmonizer and the tones, it just got a little bit more AOR pop rock and roll, and a little bit less of all that crazy stuff going on. I don't know, right? Am I crazy? That's something I've noticed. I'm gonna miss a super chat here. Roderick says, I've sold devices that are now worth a small fortune. What do you think of pedals as an investment? Thoughts on reverb? By the way, your demos are amazing. Thanks, man. Thank you. What do I think of pedals as an investment? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't buy a pedal with the, hope that it becomes the next Klon. Like I made that, about the Scream Honey recently, because they're limited. But I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't really be because then are you ever going to want to sell it anyway? Because it'll be like, oh, it's unique, I wouldn't really approach it that way, like buying a pedal as an investment. Thoughts on reverb? Spring reverb I love for vintage Strat Fendery tones. I love it. The contrast to that is like the black hole in the H9 that I'll use for atmospheric stuff. And then I equally love that for like a different kind of, completely different sort of modern take on, doing patty stuff or that kind of thing. So I like it. I like it all. Yeah, I saw the Balance concert here in Vancouver. Sound was awesome live. That's awesome. I didn't see the Balance tour. I saw them on tour. Vince Neil was opening. Like I'm talking about Sammy era. The only time I saw them during that era was Vince Neil was opening with Steve Stevens on guitar, which was awesome. And I think that would have been for the FUCK album, like around like 92, 93, something like that, when they were on that tour. That was really cool. It was awesome too. So I don't even remember where it was. Maybe it was Irvine Meadows. It was some outdoor gig in LA. I missed a super chat from Big Wave Dave, evidently. Let's see if we can find that. Sorry, I can't go back far enough to find that. Sorry. Big Wave Dave, can you let us know what the super chat was? And I promise I'll answer. I'll pay attention right now in the chat. Vince Neil was, right here, right now tour. That's right. So it was when they put out the live album and they kind of did the tour in combination with, yeah. Finish What You Started is a great example of a guitar, but that was 88. So, he wasn't fully like gone that way, but Finish What You Started was a really cool guitar part. I agree. That was really neat guitar part. Definitely unique for him, right? But all the era Van Halen tones were great. I thought different things throughout. I agree. I just maybe it was just I love Eddie. He's my number one, obviously. But there was a moment in the '90s where I was listening to other things. Honestly, I was just listening to other things. I was interested in them still, and interested in listening to what he was doing. But I was equally interested in Neil Young, to be honest, at the time, and in Joni Mitchell and stuff like that. I really kind of actually got out of rock for a second. That happened, and then I got into it again later in the decade. I was just a little like burned out maybe, and I had started some singer-songwriter projects and stuff. That happened, where I kind of went through phases, and then I went full on Van Halen like resurgence, maybe around the time I started working on Guitar Nerd, actually. Maybe early 2000s, I got back into it again. And then like by 2004 or 5, I was pretty into like playing, okay, like what if I did an instrumental guitar? It was just the 90s kind of happened. And it was like when the 90s happened, I got out of solos, I think, largely. That a lot of people did. We were just writing songs and, it was just the era. You couldn't play a solo. It was like on like sessions, nobody wanted you to play solos. It was crazy. But folks out there that did sessions back then, you'll remember what I'm talking about. It was like, yeah, can you not bend and vibrato? Can you just play the vocal melody? Like people wanted like Nirvana style, like Come As You Are, where Kurt Cobain just plays the vocal melody with like a rotary effect or something, that was the solo, that was it for me. People just didn't want to hear it, So I think we were all a little burned out, on solos for a minute. I still loved it, but it was like taking a break, It's not like I went, "Ooh, that's dumb" or anything. I was just like, we needed an ear break for a minute. Hollywood Actress says, with the Van Halen pickup video, would you consider doing a poll before you publish the video and see if viewers guess which they think come closest? That's a pretty good idea. Well, and then the other thing is, do we do it so that you even know which ones are which? Or do we just give them numbers and then do a big reveal 3 weeks later? Which was your favorite? Number 1, number 2, number 3? I don't know. That's one thing we could do for sure. Just give a list of like what all the pickups are going to be, and then we just number them. What are your favorites in the comments? It's probably a good idea, Yeah, let's see. Have you tried the latest Fender Ultra Gen 5 noiseless pickups? I haven't, but I would like to, because I'm on this little bit of a noiseless pickup take lately. So maybe I should try some of those and get a set and put them in this guitar or something, see what happens, John says, I personally hated Cobain for killing guitar. See, I didn't. I loved Nirvana, and I don't think he killed guitar. I think he just brought it back around to songs for a minute, which was good. I'm going to go there. I don't think that was a bad thing. I loved the 80s, right? But I loved where it went, too. I mean, Soundgarden, in retrospect, think about it, it's like pretty cool, It's like Wildside News says grunge was so annoying. I get it. The best person I saw kind of like define it was the drummer Ricky Brockett from Poison. He said, it wasn't that I didn't like those guys or any of that stuff. He said, what I got into music for was partying and having fun and like, like I don't need nothing but a good time. Right. And that was what he was into it for. And I get that, and there was a huge element of that to Van Halen and stuff too, and so the fun kind of, and certainly the sex went out of music for a minute, there was no like, that was just not a thing anymore, like in rock music at all in the 80s, or sorry, in the 90s. In the 80s, it was a big part. It was like the biggest part. And in the 90s, it was like, went away, but maybe it was just like a resetting of everything, and it just kind of happened. Like, I don't know, it was getting really boring was one of the things. Certainly not Van Halen, but for me, a lot of the other bands that were popping up that were just kind of copycats and, the hair bands and stuff. I mean, God, man, I moved to LA right then. And in 90, I'm telling you, there were the ads in the Recycler or whatever, or the local rock, Rock City News or whatever the papers were. Dude, it was like literally like no posers, only long hair, like don't want any, music school losers or anything. It was like, we're badass. We're going to take it to the top and be the next Motley Crue. And we're going to be the next, like, it was like all this attitude and kind of just like crap male energy. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just kind of like, ooh, like that's not really what I got into music for. Like that wasn't what Eddie Van Halen was about, or or Pink Floyd or Jimmy Page, or it was like this kind of just like this. It was very one dimensional. Like it was Steel Panther is what it was. That's what they ape. That's what they're so brilliant at, like taking the piss out of. It was that. That was the attitude. That was literally the attitude in 1989, 90, 91 in LA, right before grunge just, took over. So, and I don't think it's a bad thing that got taken down to the notch that it got taken down to. That's the way I feel about it. As much as I love Motley Crue, and as much as I love Rat, and as much as I love Van Halen, there was too much of other bands all trying to tread that same path of guitar, bass, drums, vocals, big hair, and loud, flashy guitars, and another solo and another substandard song about banging chicks or whatever. That was all that was going on. Or a sappy love ballad that was like, it was just like it sucked. Sorry, it just did. It wasn't all brilliant. There was a lot of mediocrity, and so I don't know what else to say. I was here, I was in it. I was hanging out on the, going out to the clubs, the Strip, and watching the bands play and stuff. I was in it for a minute right at the end, and I didn't want to be in one of those bands. Not like that. That's the way I felt. Let's see here. So LA, so you were influenced by Carlton, Lukather, Robin Ford. Totally. I mean, I loved Larry back then. I can remember, listening to his solos and watching his instructional video, trying to garner whatever I could, or Lukather, and those serious kind of musicians. I mean, that's more Eddie Van Halen, he was more into Alan Holdsworth and like really into, like he was a deep musician in that sense, it just came out in the context of Van Halen, which was the Dave magic and stuff, where it kind of got wrapped up into it was brilliant, like in that way. That's what made it so great, but yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time, my early days in LA, the 90s, seeing that thing go away and then seeing what happened afterwards and how much cool stuff there still was in LA, with like, let's say East Hollywood, like Jane's Addiction was like really, or like I can remember when I got my first record deal going to look at studios because we got a budget, and it's like, okay, now this is fun. I get to go like look at studios and pick a studio to record our first album in. So I can remember going to this studio. I think it was called Avalon, and it was somewhere in the Valley on Ventura Boulevard, I think. Just kind of Studio City area is my memory of it. But I went, somebody gave me a tour of the studio. It was a really fun time where it was like, I had no money at the time, and then we got this record deal, and all of a sudden I had these, like the world was opening up and I could go and book studio time, and so this guy's giving me a studio tour of Avalon, and then we walked through the lounge, and it was Tom Petty sitting there, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers sitting in the lounge, the whole band, like probably taking a break after doing some recording, and I said, "Oh, hello, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt," and they were, "Hey, what's going on?" This gave me a wave or whatever. I was like, "This is the cool, like this is LA, man." And there was so much like cool stuff that wasn't, necessarily that scene, it was really cool. The DeLeo brothers did great things. Totally. They were, Dean was a really interesting, like, obviously, he had a lot of Jimmy Page, I think, in his playing and tones and parts, and, it's pretty cool, yeah. What else we got here? Dirt by Alice in Chains gave me hope. Totally. Like Dirt was like that, them bones, that riff coming at you. I mean, didn't that started the album, right? It was just like, holy shit. Like that was so much cooler than, like, I don't want to name names, but like, whatever was happening to 89, 90 and some of the records that were coming out. And then that, Dirt, I mean, was like, that was when it was getting really, because I was like I remember Nirvana at the time. I was kind of like, oh, okay, like, and I got it and I liked them. I mean, I was like, I liked it, but I didn't buy the records. I wasn't like a huge, like, whatever, like all in fan coming out of the 80s, but I got it and I liked it. I liked the Beatley aspect, the writing stuff. But Dirt, I was like, oh man, and I bought that. It was great. And then Soundgarden, actually, Bad Motorfinger, I liked. And I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. I like it. But then Super Unknown was like, it was around that time, around 94, 95, when things got for a minute just like really friggin' interesting. Like and Super Unknown was like, to me, it's the Sgt. Peppers of the 80s. Was it the 90s? Why do I keep doing that? Sgt. Peppers of the 90s, It's just like the greatest. Like that was a sound. I remember our drummer, Jason Sutter, said, when I was playing with Chris, he said Super Unknown is like the sound of the band arriving at their full potential, And I totally agree. I was like, it was like the Beatles, right? That's why I say it's like Sgt. Pepper's, because like the Beatles, like 63, 64, 65, 66, things are starting to get really interesting, like with Rubber Soul and Revolver around then, and then Sgt. Pepper's. And now we're like, okay, now we're just like, and that to me is Super Unknown. So, yeah, love that, and that's when the 90s got really like, okay, this is pretty amazing time in music. There was an honesty to it. That's the thing. And I actually talked to Cornell about this, about that time and about the creative control that they had at that time. They had full creative control over everything, album artwork, the mixes, like the label wasn't even allowed in the studio at that point. And and I talked to him about this. I said, so it sounds to me like this was the last time in rock for sure, but like in the way the music business used to be, when people were still buying records, there was a lot of money in the music business being generated for artists, a lot of money. And you still kind of needed a big label to get to that, like even Soundgarden finally, they signed with a big label eventually and stuff after not for like a long time and holding out. But the deal that they made, they could do whatever they wanted at that point. And so they kind of had a blank check and all this power and machine behind them, a lot of expectation, but they had a very like, we're going to do exactly what we want to do attitude, which is like a pretty wild artistic combination, like having the ability to do whatever the hell you want. You can just say what you want, do what you want, put out the music you want, present it the way you want, the videos and stuff with a huge budget, and like just this control, this power over your art, and yet this big machine, And there's a magic time in music where that was kind of the last time, because then after that, Napster came and things started, budgets started. I saw it happen. I mean, when the budget started going, early 2000s and stuff, 10 years after that, it wasn't the same anymore, and then certainly 20 years after, it's completely changed. Now it's like not even the same ball of wax anymore. Different. We have different things now that are really cool, and then other things that suck. Like, you can have a billion streams and make, $5.77. So it's just a different world we live in now. God, the coffee. How about this new coffee machine? It's making my show evolve, I think. I don't know if it's a good thing. I just ramble, but anyways, Hollywood Actress says, have you ever tried the Amp 1? I know what you're talking about. Jennifer Batten is a big fan, and Vander Thomas. I know Thomas really well. Thomas Blug is a big tone guy, knows his stuff. He really does. He's a really sweet guy too. And he's a smart guy. He's a great guitar player. And that's a good combination for somebody that's also a designer and making gear. I haven't personally tried it, but I played a show with him and he was using it. So I heard him playing through it and I thought it sounded really good. So I have one of his speaker simulators here, though, the little blue box that's like IR is built in. T-Top says the records made in that scene between 94 and 97 are pretty unreal. I totally agree. Yeah, it's a good time in music for everybody from, Alice in Chains to Soundgarden and, Smashing Pumpkins was really interesting too, what they were doing at that time. And there was a lot of just really interesting music being made right then. I agree. And like I say, that also sort of coincided with, like, I got really into the Harvest Moon album by Neil Young, and I finally got Neil Young and woke up to like why he's brilliant. And that album was so beautiful, and like I got into a different side of my songwriting and sort of thing. It informed me in a different way. And I was really went that way. I wasn't playing a lot of electric guitar as much. I was playing more, some acoustic guitar and really enjoying that and stuff just for a minute, kind of went through that phase for a second. So it was cool. I like a lot of stuff. Looking at the Z-Rec, thoughts. I've never played one, but I think what I've heard, like, they sound cool. I know Brad Paisley really likes them, and I've always wanted to play an original Trainwreck Liverpool. I've played a few Expresses, but I've never played a Liverpool, and I know that's kind of the you know, what it's based on, you know. I think. What do I think about Mateus Asato's gap on Instagram? You know, it was a bold move for a guy that built on Instagram, built his name, built himself on Instagram. And I think, you know, it's a strange time, and also mental health is really important. And so if he felt like he needed to do that, I think that there was probably a really good reason for it. And I think that's the thing we need to worry about the most, you know, is if people are doing things that seem extreme, maybe there's a, you know, a reason. And I guess he, I really, he's a great example of how things have really changed and how you can put yourself on the map before he's even put an album out, you know. Maybe you don't have to put an album out. Maybe bits of 15-second and then evolving into 1-minute music on the internet are just as inspiring to people as a full-length record could be. So does he even have to? I would still really love to see him. This is me personally, my selfish, you know, take is that I would love to see him as a member of a great band. And I wonder if he would maybe be, you know, like if that would feel good as a role for him. Because generally speaking, like if you're in a band with equally talented people and they take the heat off you a little bit, because I feel like he felt like there was a lot of pressure on him. Well, what if you were a member of a band where there was, you know, at least a couple different songwriters and multiple different people and everybody contributing, and you got to kind of have the heat off you for a minute, you know, and not be so the guy, you know, because that I think that just stressed him out, like the pressure of like having to do this amazing stuff on guitar all the time. But I'm sort of more interested in his musicality and settling back into a song, and then those moments of brilliance, like Eddie Van Halen, or, you know, it's like, you know, I talked about this with Rick Beato when we did a video together at GitCon a few years ago, where I said, what's missing with today's guitar scene? He said, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth. You know, it's like that thing with a writer. So I just wonder, I'd love to see, almost actually not from a selfish perspective, almost from a preservation perspective of him not getting burnt out. I'd love to see him be in a great band, like with a great keyboard player and a great, like Toto, you know, like a really musical band where he could stretch and do his thing, but also not have so much pressure, you know. I don't know. Maybe that's not the answer, but Matthew Kennedy says, do I have insurance for your gear? I'm getting that point where I think about what I'd grab first in a fire. Well, I never get too into my, you know, the specifics of those kinds of details and stuff, but it's definitely good to have insurance, you know. And there's companies like Heritage that you can look at. So they're one, like look up Heritage Musical Instrument Insurance. I'm not sure the exact website you go to or whatever, but look that up and you might find that interesting. They, you know, you want to find a company that if you're looking at insurance, that'll insure your gear wherever it is, if it's on the road in your car, if it's, you know what I mean? Like if you're on tour, you know, and you want to look at the fine print and make sure that that's a thing. And they're one company that does that. So what about you? That's a great question. Having said that, when are you ready to be in a musical band? Hey man, I would love to be a member of a band, you know. And I just, my hope was always that somebody that had a really great established band already might go, hey, that guy can write cool guitar parts, at least, if not really cool complete songs. And they would be an asset in our group, you know, and that might happen at some point. It hasn't really yet, but that was always my hope. I don't really have this burning desire to start something from scratch. It's so much work, and I did it so many times, is the thing, you know, which, talking back about those formative years in the 90s, that's what I was doing back then, you know. And you know, I worked really hard on a few different projects. I mean, I've been in, like, believe it or not, I've been in like 5 or 6 signed bands outside of sideman stuff, you know. So made records, toured sometimes, you know, sometimes not, because they'd fall apart before the touring would happen. But I've done a number of projects with bands on record labels. And then you get into your early 30s, your mid 30s, and you're like, I don't know if I can get in a van again for like $500 a week of the tour sport money, you know, and go to every Motel 6 and open up for, you know, I just don't, I'm feeling older and I just don't know if I got that in me. So, so that's why, you know, you see me do the things I do and stuff, because I did that, you know. But if there was a great, you know, a band that was really needed a guitar player and it was established, I'm all about it, You know, I would love to go do that still and write songs and be a part of it and be like, you know, you see this sometimes with these guys, you know, like Andy went and joined Five Finger Death Punch. You know, that's a band that's already established with, you know, needed a guitar player, right? Some situation like that, I'd be totally down for a band where I'm appropriate or whatever. I'd love to do that, be a part of it, write some songs, make a record, and that's the way I feel. Respect for the honesty. Thank you. That's my honor. I'm laying it out. That's it. I just don't, at my age, I just don't really feel like starting something from scratch. Like I got to find a singer and let's write a bunch of songs and build it from the bottom up. It's like, no, I'd rather actually make my own solo records, guitar based, put out occasional singles or something with other people or guest on people's recordings or things. But if somebody's got a band, they need somebody, I'm down. And that goes for touring as a sideman too. I don't want to stop doing that. You know, I'm totally into doing that. If you were to start a power band, who would you like to have? If I was to start from scratch, God, I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. Because after everything I just said about how I don't want to, you know. But I mean, I've got a lot of great musician friends, you know. So, you know, I love collaborating with my friends like Jürgen Carlson and John Button, two great bass players, you know, they're already in great bands. But Josh Freese, yeah, Paul says, yeah, he's absolutely one of my favorite drummers. Mark Lettieri formed bands, but yeah, you know, Mark Lettieri's like probably more than 10 years younger than me, though, you know, and he did that, you know, he's had success. Like that's kind of how he made his name, you know. So, you know, we don't always hit, you know. I mean, you got to keep in mind, I was in a band on Hollywood Records called 40 Foot Echo in 2002, 3. That's 17 or 18 years ago. Like, you know, and I got in a van and went all the way around, you know. Before that, I was in a band called Snapdragon. Before that, I was in a band, you know, called Surreal McCoys. After that, I was in a band for a minute called Sparkler. You know, these are all bands that I worked with in the studio, that I worked, you know, really hard with, writing songs and doing stuff, and sometimes out on the road, and, you know, all the while touring as a sideman too, getting my touring career going. You know, what we call baby bands, like a band on a major label, but that's got a, you know, small touring budget, starting off opening for people. So I toured with Blinker the Star for 8 months. You know, I've got like the stories about, you know, being all over the place in vans, and, you know, being on the freeway with the drummer smoking pot, driving the band going 80 miles an hour, you know, like in the rain with a trailer, you know, and looking at the keyboard player going, if we don't die on this trip, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. If we make it, I think maybe I'm going to change things when I get home a little bit, you know, like literally like having that conversation, you know, over 20 years ago. So, you know, yeah, just shit like that, you know. I'm talking about the drummer smoking pot while he was driving, going 80 with the trailer, not me. The guy driving, you know, just being like, I don't know, you know. Ben Tom says, at a certain point, vans and buses are not funny anymore. Now, bus, I'm all good with. If there's a bus involved and some decent pay, let's go. But I'm just talking about, there's never a bus in the beginning, you know. It's like the van, you know. It's always the van. So that's the thing. It's a young person's game in a way, you know. So I don't know if I could do that again, you know. I remember saying I'm not going to do that anymore, actually. And then I joined 40 Foot Echo, and I said the only reason I'll do it is if I'm a part of the band, I'm a band member, cutting on equity and all that, and I make the record. If I'm a part of a record, like, and I'm recording, and I'm a sort of one of the primary members or whatever, I'll do it. A few years later, I found myself one of the primary members of a band and doing it again for $500 a week or whatever the tour support was. Like basically no money, you know, and going out and trying to make it happen, you know, trying to have a hit and all that, you know. So anyways, yeah. I guess I should go soon. What time is it? 2:20. Yeah. How long have I been going for? Oh my God, I went for 2. I keep thinking it's 2 hours. Yeah, I've been going for almost 2 hours 40. This is crazy. I knew it felt like over 2 hours. Okay, I'm gonna split in 5 minutes. Anyway, thanks for being here, you guys. You guys are rad. There's 503. There's always more people at the end. Should I start doing this later? It's like, seems like I've always got over 500 folks for the last hour or so. So maybe I should Devin Townsend on vocals. That guy's amazing. Some of the live streams he was doing during the lockdown situations and everybody started doing them. God, he's so talented. Pete's old, says BC Rich. I'm not young. I try and keep it going as long as I can. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean inside or in my brain I'm not like I got a healthy outlook. Don't get me wrong, but there are certain things that I'm not willing to do anymore. I mean, okay, I feel bad because I think about the Foo Fighters and they got that whole, the van tour and stuff like that. Okay, I would go do a tour with Foo Fighters in a van because the next one's going to be on a bus. But I appreciate the sentiment of the great days in the van. They were great days. Do I want to do it continuously though? I watched the Anvil movie. Have you seen that movie? If you haven't seen an Anvil movie, it's like that sort of spells it out. It's like, whew. That was great. Great question. Does the life of session touring musician make settling down a relationship difficult? It can be done. And I've got lots of friends that have great relationships and kids and they do it. But this is another thing about, at some point, the touring has to make sense for your age and the goals you want to achieve, maybe for having a family and things. And I haven't made that quite work, but I know it's possible. So I've got friends with kids and that have, I've got friends that have been married for, 20 years with kids and growing children now, and so it's totally possible. But yeah, it's a thing. It's a total thing, and you can't just do it forever. Like there's no way, right? Like how are you going to, you have to have some sort of, there's got to be a give and take with your partner. And there's also got to be what the key is for, if anybody wants to tour, this is the key. You have to decide what your limit is for being apart from your significant other and your kids, if you have them, and you have to respect that and figure out how you're going to see one another. Like either that's limiting the amount of touring, if you're a member of a band where you've got say in such things, or it's putting in the expense and the cost to figure out how to get home or how to get them out to hang with you on tour. And that's another reason why the van tours and stuff, it's not really like the van's generally packed full of people, the crew and the band. There's no room for anyone else. And you're not making enough money generally if you're on a tour like that anyway to fly people around. And so it gets to be really difficult in that sense. But if you're in a better touring situation or, flying, or if you're in a bus or something, and then it gets more possible. And that generally means you're making more money if you're in a tour situation like that. And you can afford things like plane tickets to go home or on days off or fly them out. And you have to respect those things. Like my limit for that kind of stuff, I realized was 3 weeks. That was I started to feel like I was single if I was in a relationship and I went beyond seeing somebody and being on the road all the time and stuff. And it was 3 weeks. That was my limit. I had to realize that was, and I think that kind of holds true for a lot of people. A couple, 3 weeks, and then it's probably a good time to figure out, it goes beyond a month or 5 weeks. You feel like the seasons have changed and you're starting to get into road mode in your head and the way it is. And you sort of start to feel single, and so that happens. Peter Evans says, Pete, great show as always. Thanks, man. Makes my Sunday. I appreciate you being here. I do. And, doing the super chat. Thank you. It will help me pay for the coffee maker. Missed your plans this week for videos. Okay. Videos this week. I've got to do one for, it's overloud plugins. So I've got that coming, as well as I showed this pedal, this Tone of the Gods pedal. Got that to get to. Got an extremely cool pedal coming up that I can't tell you about. Probably won't be this week, but maybe the next week or the week after that. There's this one that's really exciting. This is a programmable overdrive. Pretty cool. It's MIDI. So it could replace 2 or 3 pedals on your board. It's got a boost built in too. That's from RJM. I believe it's called Kuzak Electronics, who is a manufacturer for a lot of other manufacturers. They make pedals for people, but they've got their own pedals, and so I'm doing a video for them. What else have I got? Oh, Taylor guitars. I have some beautiful Taylor guitars that I need to get to and make video. Maybe it's going to be 2 videos. So there's that. And that's probably enough to bring up for now. There's others too. They're coming, but there's a Cornerstone pedal. Those are the ones that are coming to mind right now. Yep. Big Boss says, join the Red Hot Chili Peppers. No way. They got Frusciante back. They got their the main man, magic guitar player. Nobody wants to see me. They'll throw things at me if he was to leave, and he's the right guy for that band. Cusack sound. John Cusack rocks. Is that like Say Anything, John Cusack, or Cusack pedals? Was the Hi-Fi? Wasn't that the name of the movie, or what's it called? Yeah, that was a good movie. Better Off Dead. He was great in Better Off Dead, and I hear he makes great fuzz pedals too. Are you a big fan of the GT1000? I haven't really experimented with it that much, to be honest. It's just a strange thing. Maybe I should have, but I haven't. I don't know why that is. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Ben Coombe, says Michael Anthony from Van Halen. No, but that's it. Yeah, sorry, you get that all the time. I know you do. Let's see. High Fidelity, not Hi-Fi. High Fidelity. That was the movie with John Cusack and Jack Black, right? It's like one of his early roles. Great movie. Great 90s movie. Talk about all these 90s bands, that's a really good 90s movie. Enjoy that if you haven't seen High Fidelity. Yeah. Get the tour to hire your wife and your roadie, but do not get into any fights. Yeah, exactly. That can actually work if you get along good, and there's, many people meet on the road, and that's maybe some of the best relationships. If, another musician, or maybe if a wife's on the crew or in production, or, if they get the lifestyle, that's very helpful. And if you respect that's their job, and they respect you, that's really helpful. If it's a lawyer, or it might not work out, school teacher, sometimes not. Sometimes though. Sometimes. Actually, I got friends with wives that are lawyers. My one drummer friend, his wife's a lawyer. That works. They've been married forever. So yeah. He hits things with sticks and she practices law. Okay, I guess I better go. Still 515 people online, though. I feel bad going. You want to talk for a few more minutes, or what should we do? Yeah. Well, I got a super chat up there. ODC, thank you, my friend, wherever you may be. Looks like you're in Europe. Thank you. Do you dial in your own pickup and pull screw heights? Yes, generally speaking. Can you share your approach? Generally, it's just setting the neck a little lower than the bridge and setting the bass side of the pickup a little lower than the treble side. And beyond that, it's just I do it by ear. And I'll balance the pickups using a clean tone, generally. Clean to edge of breakup at the most. But I want to hear the pickups relatively clean and uncompressed, because then you can balance, without the compression of overdrive, you can balance the volumes better. And also just kind of the tone, through a good clean tone you're familiar with, that's balanced, where with another guitar, like, okay, this guitar is in balance. Get the other guitar, oh, whoa, this one's really bassy on the neck pickup, or what, you can back down the one side of the pickup and stuff. So, yeah. Have you tried a Murphy Lab aged Gibson Les Paul? No. What's different about them than like the earlier Murphy guitars? Because he's been doing them for a long time, but I don't know if there's anything different. Hardcore Logo. That's a good, solid Canadian movie, right? Punk band, right? It's been a minute. Vincent's up there in the super chat again. He says, "Is the Brilliant channel on an AC30 hand-wired reissue in this case the same as the Top Boost channel?" Yeah, should be. If it's I think it's just you might want to double check, but I think it's just Top Boost. Sometimes Brilliant, I think that's just a Top Boost channel. Some of them have bright caps in the circuit on like a AC30 normal channel, I think, but that's not what they would put on now. Generally speaking, now anything they put on now is going to have a Top Boost channel and a normal channel for sure, and probably the vibrato channel. That's generally what they always seem to do now. Ben Coombe says he opened for Anvil. Wow, how was that? How was Lips? Good times? Yeah. Driving a van when you're in the Foo Fighters is not the same as Anvil in a van. That's right. You pack the van at your 606 studio full of all your great, it's a little different. That the bus tour is right around the corner and the pay is way better, even though you're in a van. I would gladly go on a van tour with the Foo Fighters. Are you kidding? I'll leave right now. Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Pete's like the older brother with advice I never had. Is that a dig? I'm your older brother. Am I older than you? Nap time, says Mark. Yeah. Hey, I put up a tweet this week. Naps rule. And I meant it. Naps are great. I had to take a nap this week. Like I was like one of those things where I was hallucinating. And then I lay down for 15 minutes, total resetter. Somebody said it's like getting 2 days out of one. I agree. That's the feeling. Fantastic. Oh, man. Awesome time to be here. It says Val. And thanks for doing what you do. Thanks, man. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I do appreciate it very much. Phil says I'm not as old as I used to be. At times, that could be true. I feel relatively young today. Randy says, you're not 60 like I am. Well, that's true. Randy, you'll always be older. Just kidding. I say that to some of my friends where they're like 3 months older than me. You'll always be older than me. Call him my older brother. Tease him like Ben just teased me. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Do you think they'll be interested in you writing a book? Oh, geez. I don't know if I'm that interesting. I don't know if my stories are that good. I would like to contribute to a book full of folks that do what I do. That might be interesting idea for a book. Road dogs, folks that have played with people, sidemen stories. I don't think I can fill a whole book through the stories. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I don't think. Yeah, I'm too humble. I'd be happy to do it with other guys that do what I do, though. Put a book together. I think that would be cool. Let's see here. See if there's any more questions, then I'll bail. I'm going to go have some lunch and then get some work done. That's my plan. So what do you think of Steve Vai's new corgi puppy? I saw him on Instagram. Pretty cute. Hey, we just love Steve Vai. He's a great inspiration and he's a gift to us all. The things he does for music, inspiration. Let's see, because Dave Grohl has a sick ass van. I think they still have that van that they have that 90s. Looks like a Dodge or something that they did the first tour in. I think, right? It's on that episode with of Brian Johnson's show, right? What Marshall should I buy for rock and metal? JCM, DSL, like a new one? Yeah, probably the new 4-channel Jobby. The most decked out one is probably the highest gain for metal. I would say you kind of need that. Yeah. Got some dreams left of musical things you want to use for a new album? Excuse me, I burped again. I've been doing that all day. Sorry, I don't understand why any of you stick with me. Is there a new aspect that could be a future part of Pete Thorn style in rock music? I like mining my video demos for ideas for records. I would probably go back and do that again. I worked on my last record. Go back and go, that was cool. I can generally come up with 10 cool, things to like work on. And then it's like you got a demo. And what I literally did on the last record was I imported the session into Logic, into a new session. I'd save as, in Logic, you can save your project or you can save a copy as. So I'll make a file for the new record, pick the songs that I like, and then save a copy as, and then I'd start working off that, off that version of it and build it into a song, stretch it out, write new parts, replace the drums, go and, or sometimes just start from scratch. Not every song. I mean, there were songs on there like Kyushu Blues and stuff that were written from scratch. So, who's your favorite guitarist that should be in a great band? Matteo Sasato, I will say. Well, okay. I think that's the end. I'm going to go eat. This was really fun today, though, guys. I really appreciate it. Every week, you're all awesome. And thank you for being here and for supporting the channel and doing the super chats and stuff. It'll help me pay for the new coffee maker, which helps me talk really fast on the show. Have a great week. I'll be putting out some videos and stuff this week. I was a little lax this week. I only got out the one for the warm audio pre's, but hopefully if you saw it, it was helpful and enjoyable. And I'll put out some more this week. I promise. I got into a bad habit, I will say, the last week of like staying up way too late. Like I was here the day before the warm audio pre came out. I went to bed at 4 a.m. I was here at 3:30 finishing it, and then I just got in kind of a bad cycle of staying up too late, and then I wouldn't get in until 2 p.m. and then I'd be late and I'd be hungry. It's just bad. So not this week. I'm gonna go to bed earlier and try and get here by 10 or 11 and be out of here by 7 p.m. every night or something. A little more normal. Thanks again. Everybody take care. Have a great week. See you soon.